Good evening. It is October 25th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Here is your board president, Mrs. Caldwell.
Thank you and welcome to tonight's board meeting. I have this really long, lengthy series of paragraphs I have to read before we can actually start, so please bear with me. All meetings of the Board of Education are open to members of the public unless publicly noticed as a confidential closed session as allowed by law. Members of the public may address the board as outlined in the public comment section of the agenda. The audio of all meetings is recorded and a member of the public may be held liable for slanderous or otherwise defamatory statements. In consideration of the board and members of the audience, please turn off or silence your cell phones while in the boardroom. The San Marino Unified School District encourages those with disabilities to participate fully in the public meeting process. If you need a disability-related modification or accommodation, including auxiliary aids or services to participate in the public meeting, please contact our assistant to the superintendent at least 48 hours before the scheduled board meeting so that we may make every reasonable effort to accommodate you. Documents provided to a majority of the Board of Education regarding an open session item on this agenda will be made available for public inspection in the district office located at 1665 West Drive in San Marino during normal business hours. In addition, such writings and documents may be viewed on the district's website. So with that, we're in open session. For public comments, we have established board policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment have three options. 1, submit an online form. 2, request to speak during the meeting via Zoom. 3, request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. If you submit through an online form, you may do so for today's meeting from 11 to 3:30. Comments received during this time will not be read during the meeting, but will be provided to the Board of Education. We did not receive any comments today between 11 and 3:30. If you wish to request to speak in the meeting via Zoom, the meeting is going to pause for 1 minute to take requests to speak. The raise hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue. For phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. If you request to speak during the meeting in person via a public comment card, please complete the public comment card, which you'll find over with Jennifer Delatorre, and submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent. Opportunities for public comment are offered prior to closed session and at the start of the regular open session for matters not on the agenda and for matters on the agenda. The Board of Education reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker with a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. Communications from the audience concerning matters on the closed session agenda may be heard at this time. So we did have a closed session agenda item regarding labor negotiations with CSEA. There was no update, so we canceled our closed session with regard to this. So there is no report of closed session. So with that, we'll move on to our call to order for our open session. And begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Richter, are you doing the?
I will. Yes, I am very pleased this evening to introduce to everyone Elaine Hsu from San Marino High School, who we would like to come up to the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and also talk to us about her experiences at San Marino High School. Elaine.
Thank you. Good evening, Good evening, Superintendent Delatorre, Board of Education, and members of the community present. My name is Elaine Shu, and I'm a senior at San Marino High School. I moved to the district when I was in 6th grade. My favorite part about the high school is the people. I've made so many amazing friends and have teachers who are so passionate about what they do. They truly go above and beyond for their students, and some of them changed my life, whether that's my perspective on the world or myself. I've been a student journalist for almost 6 years now, and having covered many of the events in the community has allowed me to capture perspectives many don't get to see, especially as a photographer. I'm currently in my 2nd year as editor-in-chief of the yearbook, and seeing my classmates get excited about finding themselves or their friends in the pages never gets old. In the future, I hope to study sociology at Princeton or UC San Diego and to continue working in publications. But San Marino will always have a special place in my heart. It's helped so much to shape me into the person I am today, and I can't imagine who I'd be if I hadn't moved here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before tonight's meeting proceeds, I would like to pay respects to our flag and country. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Elaine, we would very much like to present you with this certificate and appreciation for leading us in the pledge. Yeah, please, and talking with us about San Marino High School. Here's the certificate. We'd like to get a photograph with you in the center.
One, two, and three. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Elaine.
Great job.
My charger. And you can guarantee I'm with that. Okay, so thank you so much. So let's move on to the approval of our agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion for approval? So moved. Thank you, Shelley. Do I have a second?
Six.
Thank you. Kelly, you want to be first?
Yes.
Yes, Mike,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Jane. Aye. Shelley. Aye. Aye. Perfect. So now we need to approve our minutes for October 11th. So thank you. I moved to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
I would second, but I actually have two small little corrections that I think
Okay.
might need to be noted on the counts of the ayes for let's see, on page 2 at the top. It says 5 ayes, but I think
I wasn't there.
no, I know, but it should be, I think it should be 4.
Uh-huh.
And then also the next vote also says 5, it should be 4. But I think the other, and then the one after that says 5. The others, I think, do say 4. So with those 3 modifications.
So I was going to recuse myself from approval since I wasn't here. So will you accept his edit?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve that's been seconded with an edit to the votes so that we total 4 instead of 5. Okay, so Kelly, would you?
Yes.
Okay, Mike,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Jane. Aye. Shelley. Aye. Okay, and I'm going to recuse myself, so I'm not going to vote since I wasn't here. So we have an approval of the minutes. Okay, so now we'd like to move to the district spotlight. Stephen, you're going to start with that?
Thank you. Yes. Well, good evening, President Caldwell, members of the board and fellow administrators. It is my pleasure to announce that the California School Boards Association has selected the SMUSD COVID-19 compliance team as the 2022 Golden Bell Award winner. And In its 43rd year, the prestigious Golden Bell Award promotes excellence in education and school board governance by recognizing outstanding programs throughout California. Out of 205 applications, the SMUSD COVID compliance team won in the category Innovation in the Time of Crises. Let me move this thing out of the way here. Blocking your slides. Too much. So tonight, I would like to highlight some of the team's achievements, as some are here in person and others are on Zoom. As you may know, the COVID compliance team evolved from the original and much larger schools reopening task force. And this group of 70+ individuals focused on one thing, and that was to develop a plan to reopen our schools safely. So the task force eventually evolved into a much smaller team to comply with the public health orders and to implement risk mitigating protective measures. The outcomes were evident as our team developed unique model programs and used data-driven decision-making processes. For example, our district led the way in providing a dedicated COVID support team that delivered responsive contact tracing to all of our students and staff. Our robust team also developed COVID testing programs, including being one of the first to offer surveillance testing to all of our staff, students, and volunteers. Here you can see one of our first testing events, such as a pop-up operation. Our team also hosted creative vaccine clinics that were adaptive, convenient, and most importantly, kid-friendly. Here you'll see one of our first clinics offered to our youngest students while they enjoy a snack and a movie with their friends. A key distinguishing factor that is also near and dear to my heart is that the team innovated by using technology and data. Our district distributed thousands of Chromebooks and hotspot devices as we shifted to distance learning. The process was very organized and smooth, thanks to many technology and data tools introduced, many of which are still being used today. Our team monitored and shared public health data for transparency while maintaining privacy. We used Google Forms to conduct surveys, collect vaccination status, process device checkouts, and track COVID test results. We employed tools such as GMass and Mail Merge to send customized emails and QR codes that streamlined drive-throughs and eliminated long lines. I'm proud to say that we still use many of these tools today. Our team acknowledges that we could not have done it alone. Thanks to the leadership of our board, our employees, our parents, our students, volunteers, and community members, everyone pitched in. Through one of the many connections our school board member C. Joseph Chang made, the Chinatown Service Center partnered with our district to offer COVID testing and mental wellness training. We also received generous donations of PPE from small to large and community-based organizations. As you can see here tonight, there's a lot of PPE in this room, right? There's probably an interesting story about how we obtained each one. We also received gifts of time and advice from medical and health experts that guided the work of the COVID compliance team. Our partnership with Keck Medicine of USC empowered SMUSD to be one of the first school districts to offer the COVID vaccine to all its employees when it was scarce. Our partnership with Omnipathology enabled our district to offer PCR testing to all our students, athletes, employees, and volunteers. They visited every school every week to nasal swab our students and staff, which provided an additional layer of protection. Our team also documented and communicated using video and digital communications. As it turns out, many neighboring districts were very interested in how we were solving pandemic and school reopening challenges. The videos we created were a powerful way to communicate how things have changed and what things will look like as we prepare to reopen our schools. As you may recall, we weren't the only ones creating videos. Our educational and arts programs produced creative works that are forever captured on our favorite time capsule, YouTube. Finally, we remain committed to maintaining the COVID compliance team website today as a reference and for potential future use. While some of the programs may no longer be needed one day, we want to make sure that they are replicable for the next public health crises. On September 20th, Mr. Shant Shahakian from Glendale Unified and on behalf of CSBA visited our district and met some of the people behind the SMUSD COVID compliance team. These included board members, district and school administrators, COVID support staff, purchasing, M&O, food services, community medical experts, and key representatives from our partnerships. On December 1st, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre and I will head to San Diego to bring home the Golden Bell Award. The SMUSD COVID compliance team exemplified that innovation in schools is attainable even during a global pandemic. I want to conclude and thank the Board of Education for supporting the COVID compliance team and your continued leadership in making the health and safety of our employees and students a priority. Thank you.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
You want to say a few words?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Jaden, go.
So I happened to be fortunate enough to come when we were being asked questions to determine whether or not we were going to be able to get the Golden Bell Award. And I, as many of you know, was not here in this seat when, the district was going through this. Notwithstanding that, though, I've been on the communication list forever. And I've been friends with many of former and current board members for forever. And so I heard a lot about what was happening. And it really was very extraordinary. I always sort of think of it, generally in the world, you get an opportunity to plan your change and then lay it all out, create a timeline, questions and answers, train everybody. And sometime, maybe 12 months later, you actually implement it. Well, that's not what we did. We designed the airplane, got the parts, and wrote it essentially all at the same time. And that's not done. And it's never done well. I mean, it just never is done well. And for us to have done it well enough that we not only achieved, really amazing safety in our school district, but we also won an award for being one of the best districts who did that is truly extraordinary. And, so hats off to everyone for, kind of making that happen. I just, can't even tell you how amazing that is. And I wanted to point out a couple of things because, well, first of all, Joseph, I've heard like a million things about you doing all of this and how much you involved the medical community. And, most of you know that Joseph and I joined the board at the same time in 2001. I left a long time ago. Joseph has remained here for a very long time, so clearly he has a huge heart for this district, but even more enormous heart, I think, for medical care. And this was really wonderful for us to be able to have his medical partnership as well as everyone else's. The other thing that I when I came to the meeting, I happened to learn a few things just about the procurement of all of this. I was at Costco last night with friends. Believe it or not, it's actually a ladies' night at Costco. And everybody was buying toilet paper. And it was the weirdest thing because, of course, you couldn't buy that at all. And, so we began talking about just how costly stuff like that actually was, in March, April of 2020, if you needed anything like that. So when I was here for the interview for the Golden Bell Award, I learned that, this purifier right here, so we have two Francesca Gills in the back at the moment. How bizarre is that? Francesca Gill on the left, it helped led, I guess, a lot of the effort to procure a lot of what we have here. And, so as we all know, prices for things went up so much at the time when everybody needed them. And so one of the big challenges was not just to find it, but to find something you could afford. And, this district has been challenged financially for literally forever. And so we have pretty long practice of looking for the best for the least, kind of thing. And so Francesca Gill on the left my left. I think what you told me is that these things were going for several $1,000s, air purifiers. And so she had the idea, if you may remember, that we had a lot of fires in the Cascades, northern part of California at the time. And so lots of people had gotten air purifiers to deal with the fires. And so she made a call up there to be able to, more or less get them, which we did. And I don't know if underneath the little squirt thing over there still has the pump. Yeah, so those little pumps that you put in the top of containers like that, how much were they going for again? We're talking more or less, a piece of plastic with a pump on the top, right? You could buy it any day, anywhere for $1.99, unless it's the beginning of COVID and you need it. So she decided, maybe I'll go look at a beauty supply store. Sure enough, beauty supply store, $1.99, close, $2.69. So it was still like even a little markup was way better. So we not only had the ability to procure all of this stuff, but we were able to do it at prices that were just pretty extraordinary for the time. And I know today, we actually, I think the board members got a letter today where someone was complaining about the outcome of COVID in the district. And I just will respond, but I think sometimes it's really hard to remember what it was like to have to deal with it, not just in the immediate moment, but more or less for 2 years. And even now, as we continue on and kind of deal with some of the aftermath of all of that, it really was extraordinary leadership for, those of you that were here and our, all of our staff. It's truly phenomenal. And I think the award is unbelievably well deserved. And I know I pulled out your document, and you're very vanilla in this document. It's just the facts. But I think that one of the things you say here is that we now have a sustainable and replicable way of dealing with emergent issues in quick speed. Technology is clearly a part of that, but I think it's also the teamwork that we have as a school community and a broader community to make it happen, which just says lots of great things for everybody. So anyway, thanks to everyone involved.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeannie.
So thank you, Board President Caldwell, for your wonderful remarks, all very poignant and true. And Dr. Choi, I just have so much to say for your entire team of employees, of parents, who have expertise in the medical profession, who gave up their time and energy just to really dedicate themselves to coming up with solutions. And I sat through many of those meetings, and they were very productive. And I want to express my sincere appreciation for your leadership and for your steadfast approach to being very innovative and resourceful. You were working, 24/7 on how to come up with a process. And you had many, many people helping you, but you were at the helm of that whole project. And I can't take credit for appointing you to that. That was Dr. Jeff Wilson, who said, Stephen, you are going to lead our our COVID-19 operations. You're going to be the head of this project. And you've stepped up to the plate, and you've done just an amazing job. We couldn't have asked for better. And I feel so blessed to be a part of this school district and this community. We have such resourceful people, and not just our employees, but on the board. And it was a real example of us coming together as a community, the board working to support our leadership, working to support our students, our parents, and everybody had a hand in making that successful. So nothing but gratitude and respect for you and for your team. And to you, C. Joseph Chang, board member, very well connected in the medical industry. Obviously, we are so grateful for everything that you did to also get donations of PPE for the school district. I believe you were the one who helped us to organize vaccinations for our teachers. And we did that before many of the surrounding school districts because of your connections with USC Keck. And we were very, very grateful for that. So thank you for all of your work on COVID in managing that program. Francesca, as President Caldwell said so eloquently, your innovation and your problem-solving skills were clearly evident to everyone. You were able to really, really help us out. I walked around the school campuses and you were in classrooms, working with teachers, trying to figure out what the best layout would be in their classroom. So not only are you ordering the materials, but you're pushing into classrooms and trying to solve problems on the spot. Thank you so much for that. And Asha Lee, who is currently working in our human resources department. And we were able to discover her talents because she was our COVID coordinator. And so she did so much work in managing our testing protocols, how we notify parents, just from A to Z, everything in between. You were an amazing resource for us, Asha, and we are especially grateful to you for your leadership and your work with respect to the management of our COVID-19 compliance. Having said that, we have some plaques for you. And I'm going to start with Dr. Stephen Choi. And this plaque reads, Dr. Stephen Choi, in recognition and appreciation for your leadership, innovation, and immeasurable contributions to the oversight of the SMUSD COVID compliance team and receipt of the 2022 CSBA Golden Bell Award. You too. Let's get it. Huh? Yeah, we're going to do it one by one. And then we'll do it all together at the end. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you for any. Okay. Okay, so next.
I got it right here.
Oh, thank you.
Vanna.
Perfect. Next is Francesca Hill with 1 L. In recognition and appreciation for your support, innovation, and participation in the thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna get one with Julian Howard. Congratulations, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay. And next, this is Ashley Lee. Please join us. Your plaque reads, in recognition and appreciation for your support, hard work, and participation in the COVID compliance team success. Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. That's all. Make sure there's pictures. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. And last but certainly not least is the one and only Mr. T. Joseph Chang. In recognition and appreciation for your leadership, support, and numerous contributions to the SMUSD COVID compliance team success and the receipt of the 2022 CSBA Golden Bell Award. Thank you so much.
By the way, I actually not take this because I'm a board member. I think my responsibility
It's a healthy school district.
It is, but that doesn't mean it's we're allowed to love and be honest to us. You can't stop us from there. Okay, so now can I have all of them come up at the same time? Sorry. And all of them start on March. That's all we do. Why not? But I thought we would. Yeah, I'm gonna get now. That maybe then. Yeah. Okay. Are we too high?
Yes.
How about if we put 4 chairs in the front of the, like for,
Good idea. President Caldwell is a problem solver.
yeah. What happens when you?
You're gonna have some all those. Really. Thank you so much. Congratulations and thank you to everyone.
Yeah, they don't do that. Okay. Okay. So this is our public comment section. So we've already given the instructions for public comments, so I don't need to reread them. Shall we take the 60 seconds to see if there's someone who wishes to comment online?
Absolutely, President Caldwell, we are pausing for 60 seconds to take requests to speak. Requesting for a public comment. If you'd like to make a request to make a public comment in the consent or information sections, go ahead and press the raise hand icon or dial *9. If you are also requesting to make a comment for action items, you should also go ahead and press the raise hand icon or dial *9.
So maybe before I'm finished, do we have like the Jeopardy music right there?
That would make you happy.
She's serious.
I am dead serious. This public pregnant pause thing.
Some background music would help.
Liven things up.
Okay, I see no requests.
All right. Do we have any cards, Jennifer? No cards. Great. So that takes us to our consent section. Do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
You know, can we have a brief discussion regarding item H?
Sure. Shall we talk about that first? Do you want to give a,
Whether it's, yeah, I mean.
yeah,
whether
why
it's
don't, I mean, we might as well.
potentially
Mhm.
Either result in the way it is or a change, I don't know.
Sure, go ahead.
So I had a question. I'm trying, I understand there's one of the challenges this district as well as every district in probably the country, but
Mhm.
definitely in our state has had with substitute teachers is finding substitute teachers.
Yes.
Obviously, they serve a very important role from allowing our teachers on staff to have their prep periods to making sure that all students are taken care of and educated as best we can do. Is there any information that we have that can tell us what the proposed increase for the substitute teacher pay would put us at compared to other geographically surrounding districts?
Yes, I can tell you that Dr. Jason Rose did a study and a survey of comparable districts to see what they were paying for both their day-to-day rate and for their long-term rate. So we took many things into consideration with respect to making this proposal. in terms of increasing the rate. And that is, we talked with other assistant superintendents of human resources about what, you know, they have found to be successful in terms of class coverage. And, you know, you said it yourself, Mr. Kalaki, we're all experiencing a shortage, and it's very frustrating for all of us. One of the things that San Marino Unified School District did to be creative in addressing this was to propose that we hire a revolving substitute for each of our schools that will get paid the day-to-day rate, but they will get benefits, health and welfare benefits, in addition to being a substitute teacher, and they're guaranteed work every single day of the school year. So if there isn't any absences at Carver and you're a revolving substitute at Carver, but there is one at Valentine, then we'll send you over to Valentine for the day, because we have committed to paying you every single day. So there's a little bit of security and less uncertainty if you're a substitute teacher and you want to work every day with that arrangement. And it helps us because we can rely on knowing that we have one person that we can put anywhere we need them at that school.
What rate is that one at?
It's the same rate.
That's the daily or long? term?
Is it the daily or long term that we're paying the revolving? Daily. So it's the daily, but they're getting something that no other sub is getting, and that is health and welfare benefits. And so that has that actually Arcadia is going to start to do that. They're sort of following our lead with respect to that, because as much as they're paying more than we are. They're still not able to fill the number of classrooms that they have vacant due to absences. So they still have administrators pushing in to their classrooms. One of the other things that we have done at the secondary level is that we have agreed at the bargaining table to pay our own teachers to push in and cover a period for one of their colleagues. And our teachers are very highly trained, acclimated professional educators. That is the best quality that you can possibly get into any of our classrooms at the secondary level is another teacher. They know our schools, they know the players, they follow the lesson plans as requested. And so we already have an agreement for those teachers to push in and cover those sections. And we're still finding that we can't cover every class. So when we're coming up with a rate that is proposed to pay our substitutes, it's with all of those factors into consideration. We could pay $300 a day and still have classrooms that are uncovered. It's not the silver bullet. And we know that from looking at our colleagues in other districts. South Pasadena, La Cañada, districts that we compare ourselves to are all having the same challenges and the same problems. South Pasadena is very successful in having their teachers at the secondary cover just the same way that we are here. And so we are now requesting an increase in the sub pay rate so that we are trying to do one more thing, have one more layer to see if that will help us, because there are probably 3 or 4 of our subs who are, you know, they're going to go somewhere else for a higher rate. But there are people who want to work in San Marino no matter what we pay, because we have a wonderful environment. And so we take all of those things into consideration. But back to your original question, did we look at data? Yes, we looked at data.
And what does the data show?
Dr. Rose?
The data showed pretty much along the 210 freeway, time that we did the data range from 140 to 205, with the median kind of being right there at 180. And so this is from all the HR people. We kind of shared this information with each other. I think since this, there have been some districts who have done temporary adjustments to theirs. But at the time, 140, 180, and 180 was right in the middle. And then the long term also went from 160 all the way to 240. So
Can I ask, so with the other districts taking similar adjustment measures as us, what is the range now?
right now, everyone's going to be 180, 190, 200.
190 to 200,
180 to 200
180 to 200.
seems to be kind of the going rate right now.
So obviously it can cause a lot of disruption, also a lot of fatigue for our team,
Mhm.
when we're having to step in, and not have substitutes when they're needed. I think if the market, I think back to macroeconomics, supply, demand, and its effect upon market price. And if you have high demand and you don't have a lot of supply, it's going to affect market. And that's why everybody in the market is raising their numbers. 180 would put us at the bottom of that middle point. And so I would, I guess I would ask if we were to look at 190 or 200, which is right in that middle point still, if we did 200 a day for the daily rate, could that be done so that
Well-
we can attract more substitutes into our district?
So,
Provide for our students.
so what I would say to that is we have a finite amount of money budgeted for substitute teachers. And now we're paying our teachers not to impose upon them, but because that's something they asked us for and they were interested in doing. It gives them an opportunity to make additional money, and they were very interested in making that happen at the table before your time. I'm looking at you, but it wasn't you that negotiated that. But I will say that we made a conscious decision before to hire revolving subs. So that is a cost also. So if we would rather pay a higher rate and not have revolving subs so that we don't have to pay the benefit costs, that's something that we can talk about. I don't think that any of these things on their own is going to solve the problem, because I've talked to other superintendents and other assistant soups of HR who do this all day long. And nobody has 100% fill rate right now. There's just not enough people to go around. So it boils down to us all competing for the same group of people. We're just going to pay more for the same fill rate, basically. That is what I believe to be true. And also, if we keep paying, we're paying revolving subs, their benefits, and we're paying a higher rate. This is what we thought we could afford within our budget based on, our size school district.
So if I could, what did you call the people that we've?
Revolving
Revolving.
subs, they go,
Revolving
yeah.
subs, okay. So we have 4 of those, one for
Mhm.
each school site.
Yes,
And they're all hired at this moment? Or
yes,
there's
they
some
are,
open
right?
positions?
Yes, nope, they're all hired,
So we have 4 people essentially coming to work every day
correct,
to fill open positions.
yes.
When you talk about fill rate, I presume they're in the, they basically fill the first 4 openings, more or less, right? So how many, just average day,
Mhm.
what's the absence rate?
Okay, so we're just starting to look at that, and I'm happy to share this with the board, but this is like a whole presentation in and of itself that we can come back and give to the board at the next meeting if you'd like that. We have literally graph after graph of teacher absences
Do you
this year
have
versus
just a
last year.
high level,
It's, well, it's hard to say because we're comparing this year to that last year, and this year isn't done yet,
Well,
like,
I don't know if you could even go back to, 2019.
so.
Because I think that, okay, so I ran call centers
Yeah.
forever. There was
Mhm.
pretty average attrition every
Mhm.
day, right?
Mhm.
So we knew what that number was likely, and we knew we needed to have coverage for.
We have more
whatever.
absences this year than we did last year for just the time period that's already passed.
Thus to now.
Yeah, for
Okay, so
sure.
are we
If you look
talking
at
like 10 a day?
September, look at September.
I don't know how to
It's
read
the
it.
dark blue line, right? Versus the light blue line. Light blue is 21-22. The dark blue
But
is
this
22-23.
400,
Right.
and I don't imagine
Mhm.
we don't hire that many people. So are those hours?
Are that you're pointing to?
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it really needs to
It's
be a
not
presentation.
really in.
Well, can we give an estimate? Is it 30
Dr.
subs a
Rose,
day? Is it 4
can
subs
you-
a day
Give an estimate.
on average?
Probably 20 to 25.
20 to 25 subs across the district this year,
Mm-hmm.
which is higher than last year
What's our?
for the
fill
same
rate?
time period, you're saying?
Okay, I'm sorry. I want to make clear that I'm answering the question that you're asking. Are you saying, do you say 20 to 25 a day? That's the vacancy?
Across districts, we're having, I think 1 month,
Yeah.
400, that's for the whole month.
Are those all
Going-
teachers though?
These are only teachers that
Yeah.
we're speaking of. So if you're 20 school days, and you're getting up to 400, that's. 20
But we
days.
don't have 400.
I thought one of the charts.
They say it says 400, but we don't have 400, so that's not right.
400 for the month.
400
400 absence.
400 teacher
Oh, for the
days.
month. Yes, I'm sorry. I thought it was,
400
okay.
Teacher days.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So 20 to 25 a day on average, I guess, for that month,
20 would probably be a better.
for that month, which is unusually high,
I'm not-
right? Because if you look at, August, it's not that high. Our absenteeism goes up after spring break or right around winter break, before and after.
What's our fill rate?
So the fill rate,
And anywhere between about 68%.
and 78, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Mhm.
So we're-
That's in both daily and long term.
Right.
So if we're looking at just rough numbers. 25 absences a day, and we're talking about a difference of $20 more a day from 180 to 200 a day. That's about $500 a day. Even if it was 180 days for the whole year, we'd be talking $90,000 difference. But the question is how much do we think that it would put us on the higher ranking of preference for subs to come here than to come to other
I
districts?
think people like to come here. They've always heard that from our subs. They prefer to come here than go elsewhere.
Well, right, but they also, I mean, the reality is money talks. I mean, people.
But
have more-
not for everyone. I mean, there's intrinsic value in being here, and it's not always money that motivates, and money is proven to only motivate for a very short period of time.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I
So-
also know that we have vacancies that need to be filled.
I
So
know, but
obviously there
we're-
are some people that want to come here because it's us. And then there's not enough people that want to come here because it's us. We're talking about potentially whatever it is, $75,000 to $90,000 a year difference that may help. I would assume it's going to help us raise our ranking on where we would be as far as preference to other districts, because if it's not going to have any effect, then why would we even increase it to 180? We would, because it's obviously going to have a positive impact. And so if there's going to be a positive impact by raising it, then the question is, if we're going to do it, do we do it right? Do we do it in a way that gets the maximum benefit to fill as many spots as possible? That's what I'm asking.
So I would propose that we schedule an agenda item
Mhm.
where we talk a little bit more broadly than just, price per day for the sub. Because honestly, when I look at this, what I see is why are more than 10% of our teachers out every
Yeah.
day? That's the biggest question for me. Filling the spot also equally important, but
Mhm.
10% not showing up every day. I mean, I totally get sick, lots of things going on, but that just seems incredibly high. So I think we need to understand that.
Mhm.
Then we should probably also look at, I don't disagree. Money's a tool we have in our toolkit,
Mhm.
and it seems reasonable to do that. But what we have today is a proposal that at least increases what we're already paying. And I don't know how quickly you could prepare this, but next meeting after. I don't
Next
know.
meeting is fine. Yeah, we've got the data. We just need to put it into a different
And
format, and yeah,
Based
absolutely.
on, sort of,
Uh-huh.
I kind of refer to it helicopter view, we could look at all tools and see what else. I mean, you may have additional recommendations
Yeah.
based on that.
Yeah, I just think that, you're still, districts who are paying $220 a day are still not filling their classrooms.
I get it.
So I just
And-
want you guys to know that that is not the silver bullet, and
No, it's not, I'm not saying it's the end all. But what I'm saying is I think it is a significant factor. It's obviously a significant enough factor for it to even be on the consent agenda tonight. Or it wouldn't even be on the consent agenda, and we wouldn't be asked to give consent to raise the daily rate.
we're
as it
just
is.
using the Swiss cheese method. We're trying to, put layers in place, just like we did for COVID, right, Dr. Choi? And so this is one more tool, but I know in talking with all of my colleagues that they're not doing what we're doing in the revolving sub, which I think that is very impactful.
That's a
because-
genius idea, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. That is
That's a
impactful
genius
because you
idea.
have someone there every single day that you can rely on. That's an extra body on campus. And this raising your rate is not going to guarantee that you're going to have one more person coming to San Marino. I mean, we might get one or two or three on a certain day, but it's not the solution. It's just another tool.
Does this rate increase for the daily or long-term affect or impact at all the secondary teachers' bill coverage rate?
It would be, if we, does this increase in
Because
rate
we
for the
have-
subs?
If we have the secondary teachers
Uh-huh.
using their sections
Yeah.
to cover,
Right.
is this going to impact?
I don't think it will substantially at all. I don't. Do you? I don't.
This is signing,
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, the hope is we get to a place where we don't have a shortage. And one more thing I want to share with the board, we talked about in our executive committee meeting this morning, is that we're going to have a job fair for substitutes. It's going to be led by Dr. Rose, and we're going to advertise with our PTAs. And I know that we have many people in the community who are qualified to sub.
Just work full time.
I know, darn it. You know, we have retired teachers in our community. We have stay-at-home moms who, I mean, have a bachelor's, a master's, and maybe just need to go take the CBEST so that they can substitute. We wouldn't likely put them at their kids' school, but we could use them elsewhere. And I think that is a creative way that we can, you know, get some really highly qualified substitutes. And so I want to attack this problem from a creative outside of the box perspective and not just think of, oh, well, we're just going to raise the rate. I mean, that is one tool, but again, it's not the end all be all. I think we need more people in our San Marino pool. And if we can get people who are in our community already, why would they want to go to, and they're not thinking of subbing, they're just, you know, and they want to help, right? They want to volunteer. Why not come to work for us as a substitute teacher? You're here in the community anyway.
I think all the money is a factor, but I think the sub teacher, they come to San Marino, I think with a lot of reason.
Mhm.
You know, because you know, I'm the school board member, so I'm not trying to do the micromanagement. So actually a lot of people, they call me, they want to get into this school as a teacher or as the sub, but I never refer to you because this is not my job. But the reason I say that mean that there is I don't think we are in the bad condition. We cannot get the sub. I think as you mentioned, we will do the fair, and then they know I think that this the marketing issue. We need to cover all the angle. So that's what from my daily experience, I tell you that every couple of weeks, the people they call me because they know I'm here 21 years. I'm in this community, and a lot of our second generation they graduate from the San Marino High. They want to come back. I'll give you an example. Even the city council candidate is doing for the Schedule B before, so you know how attract to come back to work. So I think the supply and the need, I think that we have to do for the marketing study. Yeah.
What was our previous rates?
Yes, so it's going up quite a bit.
So I assume that the overall budget and
Mhm.
all of that is driving what this rate is. And that's a pretty significant increase. So at this point, without knowing, without having a crystal ball, we go with what budget's in front of us that's been approved, that we vetted. We open up a discussion for later for all of the other strategies to address it. And we see what happens after this. I mean, we don't know, we're sort of we're trying to jump from A to C, D, F, G without really going through the steps.
Right.
So I agree with Mr. Clocky that we want to be concerned about our pay being competitive. And so that's where this is coming from, to raise it to 180. And I think we see where it takes us. And if we need to address this again, if our finance department and our staffing department comes to the conclusion that that has not solved the problem to our satisfaction of our district, then we reassess.
Yes, I think that's great.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I also have a question.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
go ahead.
For the 9E warrant report. So I see there's I know the vendor, but I like to have an explanation for the 148,500 pay for right at the school.
What, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
the right at
which
school.
exhibit were you?
Right at school.
Yeah.
Michael?
9E as in.
Yeah. Yeah, is that's the we
After school.
pay for each of our employee and the subsidy of the.
Dr. Lin can answer that question.
Yeah, I can do a little bit more research into this, but my initial understanding of that is it relates to ELOC funding. How we have the extended day program for students who are unduplicated, and this is part of the ELOC funds that we get directly from the state, and we have to implement that program.
So we're offering, we have to offer after school support to a certain percentage of our unduplicated count students. And that actually is far more successful than we thought it was going to be. The numbers are really, really good for that. And so we are taking the one-time money that we're receiving from the state that's restricted for that and giving it to Right at School. And Right at School is going to administer that part of the program for us.
So that's money that's coming out of money specifically designated restricted for that anyway.
Extended learning opportunity grant. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So if I can just go back to item H, is President Caldwell, you had suggested that maybe we have an actual agenda item to do an analysis. How quickly could that analysis be done so that we could take a look at it?
I mean, you were thinking it's the 15th, right? Is that the
Mhm.
next meeting?
Mhm.
Is that, so let me just tell you, in my head, I was kind of jotting down what I thought it ought to have, so
Mhm.
you know what you're signing up
Mhm,
for.
mhm,
So the first thing is, I think we need to understand the absence rate,
mhm.
you know, and
Yeah.
to the extent that we know.
Which, by the way, is different this year. And so I don't know, have we had the same system, the ASOP system for,
Yes, there's only so far you can go back in the system.
right? And so we need to check that out first of all.
I mean, even
because-
if you can only look at this year, we can do
Yeah.
contemporary data
Mhm.
and just decide what we want to do with that.
Sure.
Because I think it's different if it's like a medical procedure and you're out for a long time versus, you know, child sick, you know, I mean, there's
Yes.
like a million
Well,
different reasons.
COVID
to-
kind of
yeah.
throws it off too, because we had a lot more absenteeism due to COVID and the fact that the state was providing leave
Mhm.
up to 10 days each time you had
Before
COVID.
and not now, right? Or they are. now
Through
too.
December 31st.
Oh, is this a use it, lose it thing?
Yes,
Again, yeah.
right. And so
So
I think that
highlight that.
impacts, yeah, I think that impacts our absenteeism rate.
Important to know.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
No, I definitely think that the why is our staff absent is important. I'm not, and if it's all dealt at the same time, then that's great. I look at it as asking why I'm hungry is not as important as how do I feed myself?
So I,
So we have the deficit and we want to understand why we're hungry for subs, but we also want to know how do we make it happen so that we can bring those subs in right now.
So I also was thinking that we probably need to relook at the competitive analysis, since it appears that you made a comment that there were some emergency increases. And so I think kind of understanding where those exist and against what dollar amount, as well as those that may have been just, you know, schedule increased, you know, be helpful to know which ones and how much, so we kind of get a sense of that. And then, I mean, if we're, you know, kind of looking at the rate, I mean, you know, I think as well, the additional people that we have in place.
Mhm.
You know, I know we have some teachers that are out on, you know, sort of long-term
Mhm,
situations.
mhm.
I'm guessing that the long-term,
And those are filled.
but are they filled with the long-term?
Yes,
I mean, the term, different than the
day to day.
the daily person?
Yes, those are filled with long-term subs.
Okay.
Who, if they work a semester or more, they go on the salary schedule.
So maybe just laying that out for
Yeah,
us so we kind of
okay.
understand,
Yeah.
because like, you know, we don't, you know, we don't know what's in what group or not,
Right,
but
right.
just kind of having that kind of laid out. And then I think kind of understanding what the cost would be. So if we were to increase, I mean, like if we just take, you know, the highest dollar amount that's scheduled, what would that be to us if we wanted to
Mhm.
be at par.
Mhm.
Just kind of understanding that, or maybe we do an emergency thing and reevaluate after, December 31st, when
Mhm.
the use it, lose it thing is gone.
Yeah, I think that will definitely change things, but also, and I just have to say this, right? I
Yeah.
think this is, I think this is outside of governance and more into management.
Oh, it probably
It's
is.
definitely into
I'm just telling
management.
you, so here's the deal.
This is like really micromanaging.
It is, but so the issue here is that
Uh-huh.
we're being asked to approve this and there are a lot of
Right.
questions.
I know,
So for us to be comfortable approving it, we
Right.
have to have those questions answered.
yeah,
So it may be that I am telling you what
Right.
I need to see or we
Sure.
need to see,
okay,
but it's because I'm not seeing
Okay.
it now.
got it. But she had a motion on the floor, right?
Nope, never got to make. it.
Oh.
Oh, never to make it, okay, okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
Once
I
we're
think
done
what I
with the
wanna be
conversation.
Certain of is that what I just laid out covers what the board wants to see.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I
Yeah.
just, so the question was, how long would it take for us to be able to get that information? Because the reason why I'm asking that
Uh-huh.
even before the vote is I'm being asked right now to vote to give consent for something. And I'm not sure that I want to give consent for that. If
Okay.
maybe some other action should be taken, like a higher amount. And so
Okay.
what I'm, to get the information to know how best to vote, I'm just wondering if we're dealing with this request, that's one part of it, but then how long would it take to get additional information to see if maybe something else should be explored is what I'm asking.
I think the
I'm
vote. that-
sorry, if I could just get an answer to my question. And then,
Well, I
would
am,
love
but
to
I
hear
am
what you-
answering your question.
I'm not asking you actually, because you're not
Well,
gonna do the
no,
analysis.
because I'm saying, you're saying you don't want to vote on something today because of some information that may come later.
Board
but the
member
vote
Tone, I wasn't
before us
asking you a
is
question.
This.
You wouldn't do the analysis. The superintendent and her cabinet would do the analysis, and that's who I was looking at, and that's who I was asking the question. of.
So
Gonna
earlier,
do the analysis,
Yeah.
so how long would it take?
I would have to defer to the Director of Human Resources, Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose, how long would it take for you to gather this information?
I will have it whenever. before the call.
So we can get it before the next meeting if that is the board's.
So our November
Desire.
meetings are, I know one is
The
November
15th?
15th.
Mhm.
When's the other one? Do
The
we
other
have
one
the second
is, yes. Oh, we only have
We
one.
only
in
have one
November. That's
board
right.
meeting in November.
Yes, thank
So
you.
it's the
Thank you.
November 15th meeting or the December whatever
yeah.
meeting.
Mhm.
What I was going to say, was your question answered?
Yeah, I mean, if that's when we're looking to put it on, I
Well,
appreciate it.
that's-
Thank you.
I think that.
May I, Jeannie,
Mhm.
for a second?
Yes.
My. I enjoy the opportunity to learn more about the background for this.
Sure.
However, I would like to limit the scope of this conversation to the scope of our role.
Mhm.
As much as I need to know information in order to make a decision, what I need to know is its impact on the budget.
Mhm.
What I need to know is how is this going to impact the budget? How is this going to impact it both for this year and for the multi-year? How is it going to really play out on a financial level? How's it going? And I understand Jeannie's concerns about how is this going to
Mhm.
play out in terms of what all the pieces are. And I understand Mr. Clackey's concerns in terms of the morale and all of that plays into it. But those are all bigger issues that are not the role of the board to be determining. So as much as I appreciate the information, it's not necessarily, I don't necessarily need the information to the extent that it's going to affect my vote today, which
Mhm.
is what is in front of us, which is a 180 and 200 pay increase from 144 and the other amount.
Mhm.
So do I want to give whatever happens between now and when we have this conversation? Do I want to give our subs more money between now and then? Yes. I want to be able for us as a board to vote on that. And think that this decision we make as a board is going to actually impact who gets paid starting from that point on. So I assume this would be an effective tomorrow.
Mhm.
So
So I think we.
I will make the motion now if we don't have any other questions to discuss.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about when we come back. So you can go ahead. I mean, thank you for the motion.
Yeah, second, yeah.
Thank you, Joseph, for a second. So, I mean, just thinking about when you come back, I mean, 11:15 is, I don't know, what, 3 weeks? I don't know. Does that sound right? And then there's 12:13. So those are the next two meetings, correct?
Yeah.
The second?
There's no problem for us to bring that back on the 15th,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
right? Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so 11:15 it is. So we'll add that to our agenda for 11:15. So we have a motion and a second. Any further conversation?
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so Kelly,
Yes.
thank you. Mike,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Jane. Aye. Shelley,
I,
Jeannie. Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's go to the communication section. How about if we start with you, Shelley?
Okay.
Change my right view to my left view today.
thank you so much, President Caldwell. So on October 13th, I was delighted to attend the San Marino School Foundation Mixer for our new families. What a wonderful event for our new families at the old mill. We welcome new families. I think we had over 150 children in attendance, as well as their parents. And it was just really nice to see the robust primary grades and their families. On the 14th, I went to PTA affiliates. Thank you, Liz Kinnear, Stephanie Duncan, Jeannie Caldwell, and their crew who hosted the PTA affiliates event at what was it?
Janice and Joe
Joe
Canzaneri's.
Canzaneri's garage. And this was the evening of the San Marino Temple City football game. Many of us didn't make it there on time because there was so much fun. And I know some of our principals and cabinet members were there taking pictures, enjoying the cars. We almost got one out for a drive, but didn't quite make it. Library Libations was on the 15th. What a wonderful event just across the street here, where a lot of our foundation trustee members were dressed up as literary figures, and just a lot of fun, but also the need to raise the funding and the money for the library and the use of the library and all their programs. San Marino City Club hosted a wonderful dinner at the Huntington Library. There, Randy Schulman was our guest speaker. He's not only an alumni of San Marino, but he's a well-known, renowned speaker, and he was able to kind of storytell his way through the gardens, through the buildings, and share with us all of the plans and innovations for the library. Not only the architects and the people who had supported the library, but also the vision for the next decade. The October 20th is a reminder of how we need to all be prepared for earthquakes. So it was the Great American Shakeout, and on that, all of our schools participated. I know Carver, I read all of their, participated. And this is a way in which we teach our young children and our students that muscle memory of how to respond in an emergency. And so great that we practice it and we're able to ensure all of our students know what to do. And it's a reminder to our families also to be prepared, especially when we have an older citizen population, so that we want to make sure that we take care of each other. I know on my street, there are block events that we host to make sure that we take care of each other and we help each other in emergency situations. I know my children have had to go clean yards and check on our neighbors, not because they were so willing, but because they knew that their civic duty was to take care of each other during emergencies. Strange Science at the Huntington Library. Never had I gone there so many times in a week, but I went there and had a wonderful evening, learning a lot. I was telling Dr. Linda Delatorre that I never realized Shakespeare's fascination with poison and potions that make you fall asleep. So in a number of his plays, he's fascinated with that. And finally, what a wonderful event at, I'm not sure Daryl's here, but at the Huntington Middle School Huntington Breakfast. And wonderful to see everyone there. The families are out. I was so excited. Supervising a couple of our city council and candidates. They were making pancakes. And it's very difficult when they all want to take breaks and they do want to chit chat. When pancakes, it's burning, and I just was trying to get it all ready for the children. And, we had to make sure that we were taking care of the kids. So I think hundreds of families came through, and what a nice start to our fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I also attended pretty much what Shelley attended, but far less. The Foundation New Family Mixer was also a great opportunity at the Old Mill. The Huntington Breakfast, lots and lots of fun, and some PTA meetings. And that's pretty much my last couple weeks.
Joseph?
By the way, I also attend probably most of the meeting Sherry Ryan mentioned, but first of all, I want to thank you to the San Marino School Foundation trustee and helper. Yeah, so make a newcomer event is wonderful. So that's a potential, the income for the school district. And secondly, PTA affiliate, I always attach, the parent, their kid already graduate from the high school, but they still with the community. And this is the group, they always stay with our school district, give the support, and especially some they are always helping for grant night. I think the two events I want to mention, October 13, I attend the Huntington Library Education Committee. The reason I mentioned about this a meeting, we are doing the strategy planning for how we want to do the education to the K-12. So we are talking about digital learning and then the teaching. So see how we can use the Huntington Library resource and convert to the curriculum. And in the afternoon, we have a in-person meeting. I connect Dr. Richter and high school assistant principal. So we went to Huntington Medical Research Institute. So met the president. See there's an opportunity for our school students have a internship there, because currently they are just benefit to the Pasadena Unified School District. They consider as the underserved population. So we said we need to give the San Marino High School an opportunity. I think that's it.
Thank you. Mike?
So I attended the San Marino High School Sweets and Songs event, which was a wonderful evening outside in the quad. The students did a great job. It was put on in a great way. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun, and so I wanted to thank the high school for putting that on. Also volunteered at the Huntington Breakfast, the snack bar. So that was great to be a part of that. Snack bar sold out of literally every single bottle of water, bag of chips, everything that we had was sold out. So, so that was good. I did have some conversations with community members who wanted to take the opportunity to give some input as to how they felt we could best provide services to our special ed students. And I listened, I took that information, I conveyed all of the thoughts and suggestions off to Dr. De La Torre as well. And then I attended the San Marino High School PTSA Association meeting and also judged for the debate team at the Bargain Belt tournament at Claremont High School. Wanted to thank for that opportunity, but also say congratulations to every one of the students that participated, regardless of what their result was. And then an extra congratulations to the ones that did place first and other high levels as well. So there you go.
Thank you. So as many of you know, I was actually away between our prior, well, basically I missed last meeting. So I'd like to thank Jane for taking over for me. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that very much. It was a family reunion where we had a great time. One of the things that we used to do when I was on the board before is bring back a little memento to our fellow board members and the staff, the administrators here about, just kind of what we did. And so some of you may have seen this little gold bag I was passing around. It's very kind of goofy, but I always look for little things that, sort of suggest that you might, maybe just keep it for a while and just remember your time on the board more than anything. So it's, if you're familiar with I think it started in Germany, but it's a German tradition where you hang a pickle somewhere in your tree. And it's supposed to be a surprise. And the first person to find it on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve or whenever you open your holiday gifts gets a prize. This actually does say Christmas, but the new tradition is kind of anything. Hang it on your menorah, hang it on your Kwanzaa, cornucopia, whatever. So that's kind of the idea. And hopefully it'll become some sort of a goofy tradition. Your family will find something funny to laugh about from your time on the board. So that's really what I'm hoping. And mostly.
Can I share with you?
Uh-huh.
So whatever you give to the board member for the next, the last year, I to keep in my family room. Okay.
Shrine.
Well, that's better than all those people I see in the grocery store that remember me giving their child their diploma and I am on their.
That's true.
That's just really kind of funny to me. So I know. Anyway, I also wanted to just talk a little bit about PTA affiliates. Sort of when your children begin to graduate from San Marino High School, I think one of the things you find is that a lot of the time, the folks that you know and the people that you see and enjoy doing things with every day, you don't see them as much because your kids are gone to wherever you're doing something different. You're just not running into each other on campus anywhere. Anyway, so that's kind of how PTA affiliates started. It was for those families who had been, involved and enjoyed their time in the district to continue, supporting the district to some extent, celebrating the district. And that's really what we do. So there's always this big mystery and question about PTA affiliates. It's basically for the old people. That's kind of how it's set up. But literally you don't have to wait till every kid has graduated. Like if you've got one, come on down. I mean, truthfully, if you want to come, you don't even have to apply. You just need to show up. So it doesn't really matter what it is. If you care about the district and you want to come, please do. So we do 3 things a year, 3 events a year. One is usually around homecoming. We do one at grad night, and then we typically do one in the spring, and we try to tie it to the arts a little bit. To the extent that the schedules work to allow that. So it's a way for folks to kind of be connected. So I hope that anybody who wants to be, at least knows they're always invited to be there. It's hard to keep up with people. If you move or you change your email address, we don't get updates, and most people don't think to tell us. So it's not that you've been dropped from the list, it's we can't reach you. So literally there are no blackballs in PTA affiliates. So the other thing I wanted to highlight is while I was away, I got, this very large envelope, and it has a great report in it that our Dr. Armbruster, for those of you who may remember, he's a longtime great teacher here at the high school. And, I worked with him a lot when I was here before and, saw a lot of what he did there, but he did quite a lot of work here when the original academic advisory committee was in place. And I've actually not seen this report. I think the original date for submission was 2020. And I see Shelley, you got a copy, and Ishkali, you got a copy. I assume, Linda, you probably have one too.
I think Jeff was given a copy and it is in my office.
Okay. So I just wanted, in case he's listening, I wanted to thank him for sending it. It was with a very nice note, and I appreciate that too. And I will read it and come back on that. So other than that, I don't think I have anything to add except maybe the foundation meeting to what everyone else, has done. So why don't we move to what our students have done, and let's have Kelly tell us that.
So at the high school, as was mentioned, we had Sweet and Songs, and that's our San Marino High School choir. They performed and sang songs, and they were like free treats along with like free admission. And I think my physics teacher did a really funny thing where if you were in choir, he had you like sing a demo in class right before class started. So our class didn't get a demo. I heard some classes did. And at the middle school, as was mentioned, there was haunted team breakfast. I was on the Instagram and I saw that they brought in like rides. And then they also had like booths to decorate bracelets. They had decorating tote bags. And I saw a lot of volunteers like help make pancakes. And there's even like art displayed at the breakfast. So if you still go online into the Henderson website and you look at their gallery, I think some of their arts are posted there too. And there's also a lot of volunteers from San Marino High School students. I heard like a lot of my friends went to volunteer. So it's just nice seeing everybody be a part of community, even though we already graduated. At Carver, the 5th graders went to watch a play called Annie's at the San Gabriel Mission. And apparently they had a music center assembly with the Alley Cats. And I think they came to perform, which is really cool. And it was entertaining for all grades. And at all campuses, we had the Great American Shakeout on October 20th at 10:20. At Carver, we had Miss Mejia, who did a good job of making sure everybody was prepared. And at the high school, a lot of teachers talk to students the day before to see have them know what is expected of us. Mr. Kernbach also went on the speaker right before the shakeout started, so he knew how we had to be quiet in the halls and how we had to report to the football field, and everything went really smoothly across all campuses. This week is Red Ribbon Week for all campuses. So at the high school, we tied ribbons to all around the campuses, on trees, on poles, along the railings. We also had an egg hunt today. So we had candy and facts about drug use hidden in candies, and we hid it all around campus so students can find it and just read the facts and have candy. And at HMS, Valentine, and Carver, they all wore red on Monday. That's all.
Oh, great. Sounds great.
Okay.
Would you like to go next?
I would. Thank you so much, President Caldwell, members of the board. This evening, I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about our CAS data. Dr. Richter and I met with each board member individually just to go through the data, and it has been released publicly. And as you all know, San Marino anticipated and planned for lower than customary scores on the state's California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress exams. So overall, we know that California students performed significantly worse in 2022 than they did in 2018-19. The reason for the gap in time, which I'm sure the board is aware, is because in 2019-20, the CASP administration of the assessment was suspended as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then in 2021-22, fewer than half of all students in California met the state standard in English language arts, with a drop of 4 percentage points to 47.1% from pre-pandemic 2018-19, when the state last required the test statewide. Exactly 1/3 of students performed at standard in math, a decline of 6.5 percentage points. So this has come to fruition as expected. However, San Marino as a whole fared far better than most districts in the entire state of California and in the nation. So if you compare the percentage of students in San Marino who met or exceeded standards in English from 2018-19 to 2022, the percentage dropped slightly by 2.05%. When you compare the percentage of students who met or exceeded standards in math for the same time period, the percentage has decreased by 4.17%. In 2020-21, school districts in California were given the option to administer the CASP, or in lieu of the CASP, any district-wide local assessment could be used. Last year, our school district administered the CASP assessment in an effort to continuously monitor performance on statewide assessments. When we compare our 2021-22 CASP assessment results to last year's 2020-21, SMUSD demonstrated an increase of students who met or exceeded standards in English language arts by 4%, with 87% across the board. And for math, 83% of students met or exceeded standards in math, no change from 2021. The California Department of Education has been talking, as we all know, for the past year about the adverse impact that COVID has had on student learning. This is not unique to San Marino Unified School District. A recent article by the New York Times highlighted a report by the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which began its monitoring of student achievement in the 1970s. The NAEP study reported that when state assessment data was reviewed this past year, students, particularly 9-year-olds, lost ground in reading and math scores by the largest margin in more than 30 years. I find that startling. We know that across the nation, students have experienced learning loss and that test scores are a testament to this learning loss. Nonetheless, according to the California Department of Education, California has withstood the efforts of the pandemic relatively better than other states and demonstrated an ability to balance the education and social emotional well-being of our students. And I'm sure counselors can attest to that sitting here in this room with us this evening. With additional funding provided by the governor and the legislature and the help of community engagement partners, San Marino schools are creating programs to improve student outcomes and address any achievement gaps. We have provided targeted interventions and tutoring support at all schools to be delivered by credentialed teachers and professional academic tutoring companies. San Marino Unified School District leaders remain steadfast in their commitment to supporting our students, not only academically, but socially and emotionally. COVID severely impacted student learning nationally and in California, but much less so in San Marino, where students were able to transition to a rigorous virtual learning program quickly, access technology tools not readily available elsewhere, and were able to receive academic and emotional support at home from their parents and other caregivers. It will take extra resources and attention to recover from this unprecedented worldwide event and potentially several years for our students to fully recover from the impact. San Marino Unified has already begun this work with fidelity. We are up to the task and will work hard to ensure that we are providing every child, I want to say that again, every child, with the academic and social emotional resources and support that they need to thrive in school. At our next board meeting, Dr. Richter will provide a full report on our CASP scores to the Board of Education, and we will discuss our next steps. But I feel like we are in a good place. We have met with our principals individually and as a group. We'll be meeting with our principals and assistant principals this Friday to dig into the data and talk about the development of a very comprehensive, intentional plan to make sure that we are bridging any learning loss that has taken place in San Marino and that we get our kids back up to where they need to be. Please understand that our students did much better on the CAS than many school districts in the area. And in California. So when we talk about a decline in scores, we have to keep that into perspective. Our scores are still higher than neighboring districts. They're just not what they were 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You know, hate to comment on your thing, but I'm gonna.
Gonna comment on the comment?
I'm gonna comment on your comment. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you think about the level and amount of time that kids were out of their sort of normal classroom
Yes.
environment. And, I know everyone, we just talked about the award we won for, the preparation, the ability to make sure everyone's there, the fact that our, teachers were online almost immediately and bridging, at least as much as possible, the inability of kids to actually go to the classroom. But the end result of that is it was different,
Mhm.
and it was different for a long time.
Mhm.
And I think we can't lose sight of that. That's just something that's just truly unprecedented.
Mhm.
It's, hadn't happened since the Spanish flu,
Right.
right? Literally, that was the last time. I always take a lot of heart in the fact that I've never seen research when they talk about children and their ability to recover from things that haven't really focused on the resiliency of children.
Mhm.
Literally, it's in everything I ever read. And, I think that, knowing that and knowing how much time and effort everyone is putting into making sure that our kids do get to make up for what they lost in the classroom, physically in the classroom. I, for one, would be awfully heartened to know that my kids were doing that in this school district.
Mhm.
So anyway, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you want to introduce the next part? Or you don't need to do that.
It's up to you because you're the boss, but I would be happy to introduce the San Marino High School counseling team. So we have here with us this evening the high school principal, Mr. Jason Kurtenbach, the high school assistant principal, Mr. Kasamklay, and we are going to ask that they introduce each one of our amazing counselors who work very hard at San Marino High School to deliver their presentation. So I will turn it over to Principal Kurtenbach.
I'm just going to introduce my fantastic assistant principal who's in charge of this wonderful team, Mr. Carlos Kasamklay.
Awesome. Thanks for having us here tonight. Thank you, Board President Caldwell, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre, executive team, and student board member Kelly Trin. Tonight we'll give you insight into the major components of our counseling program at San Marino High School. We will show you how our department manages to organize many complex pieces while looking ahead and trying our best to innovate. I would be remiss not to mention two very important members of our team that aren't here tonight. We are aided greatly by our assistant, Ms. Cribbs, and our registrar, Ms. Quiros, who keep us organized and keep our records intact. So let's start. Thank you.
We need your music. Do, 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 do.
I'll go ahead and start talking about it.
There we go.
It'll come up in a second. Our counseling team works collaboratively in four main teams, or what we call committees, with the primary goal of providing excellent social, emotional, academic, and college and career support to our students. Each committee is led by two counselors, and each counselor is on two committees. Our scheduling and curriculum committee is led by Ms. Flores and Ms. Smith. Our college and career committee is led by Ms. Flores and Ms. Acosta. Our wellness and support committee is led by Ms. Acosta and Ms. Nelson. And our special projects committee is led by Ms. Smith and Ms. Nelson. Now our counselors will give you a more detailed look at the work of each committee. Lastly, I'd like to mention that much of the work presented here tonight are new initiatives and improvements on past work completed by this team. Much of this work did not exist before the pandemic. We look forward to taking your questions at the end of the presentation.
I'll go ahead and start. One of the most common questions that many people have is, what is a school counselor? As specialists in child and adolescent development, school counselors coordinate the objectives, strategies, and activities of a comprehensive counseling program. Our program is an integral component of the educational system and is vital in preparing and assisting students to be successful lifelong learners. We work with other members of student support team like school psychologists, school wellness counselors, child welfare and attendance members, and school nurses to assist students in decision-making, managing emotions, coping with crisis, overcoming barriers to learning, and seeking access to the core curriculum under the ASCA national model.
The American School Counseling Association, known as ASCA, provides a national model in order for us to implement our comprehensive school counseling program. We utilize data to help prepare our students for post-secondary success, and we have standards and expectations to equitably support student achievement. We focus on and promote 3 domains of ASCA: college and career, academic success, and social emotional development. We are essential for students to achieve optimal personal growth, set informed career goals, and help students realize their full academic potential. Our job is to assess student needs, deliver direct and indirect services to students and families, and manage our programs in a proactive and efficient manner.
As a well-rounded counseling team, we work from a multi-tiered, multi-domain system of support, otherwise known as MTMDSS, making sure we have activities and interventions in all 3 domains of academic, college, career, and social emotional well-being. Tier 1 refers to school-wide events. Tier 2 refers to small group or as-needed interventions. Tier 3 refers to our work with our students at a more individualized level who may need the most support. You can see on page 5 in your folder the amount of activities and events we have to help our students succeed across all domains and levels of intervention.
It is important to acknowledge the differences in our role compared to Ms. Alhendi, who's our wellness counselor. While we often collaborate on school-wide wellness events and crisis interventions, our role as school counselors is to incorporate not only the social emotional well-being, but also the college and career and academic success. We work under a PPS credential and support students across all MTSS tiers, whereas Ms. Alhendi works under her clinical license. We provide referrals and collaborate with our wellness counselor who oversees Tier 2 and Tier 3 social emotional interventions. Ms. Nelson and I lead the Wellness and Support Committee, where we support social, emotional, and academic support to our students in order to deliver appropriate services based on student individual needs. We work with our registrar to analyze and look at grade reports to identify students experiencing academic challenges. Once identified, we help lead our team to implement proper interventions such as check-ins, weekly or daily trackers, and intervention tutoring. If initial supports are not effective, then we initiate a student success team, also known as an SST. If needed, we may initiate 504s or IEP referrals.
When we learn of social emotional concerns, referrals and collaboration with the Wellness Center are necessary to help support the student holistically. As part of our Wellness and Support Committee, Ms. Acosta and I gather data both as a pre-assessment for school-wide intervention, and we incorporate this into our lessons with students. We deliver school-wide lessons on suicide prevention and bullying. This year, we administered a needs survey, which showed us that stress management and self-esteem building were the most important needs to our students. You can see the data we collected more in your packet. And lastly, we are running quarterly counselor in the quad events where we can connect with students in a more relaxed environment at lunch.
The Students' Needs Survey this year shows that students across the board are interested in time and stress management skills, as well as self-esteem building. Therefore, we will incorporate school-wide lessons on self-esteem and stress management this November and December. For the college and career domain, students' interest varies as they get older, so this helps inform our work for 9th through 12th grade. College recommendations and financial aid information are the highest interest across our student body.
Additionally, data from our suicide prevention lesson demonstrated growth in students' abilities to make wellness referrals for themselves or a friend, knowledge and identification of suicide prevention resources, as well as identification of protective factors. We continue to collect data in our lessons moving forward. And lastly, to address those tier 2 services mentioned earlier, as a team, we have about 37 students receiving tier 2 services, and we have planned out 3 social emotional lessons for the remainder of the school year.
Ms. Acosta and I lead the College and Career Committee. In this committee, we focus on post-secondary opportunities for all students. All counselors have attended professional development designed for school counselors, including the Summer ASCA Conference, UC CSU conferences, College Board updates, financial aid workshops, and LACO workshops. These conferences keep us informed on admissions requirements, application updates, and new trends so we can advise students when it comes to the college application process. In addition to our grade level Naviance lessons, we provide a variety of workshops to support the college application process. All of these workshops can be found on our website so families can reference them. A highlight this year in collaboration with our English department to deliver a unit on a college essay writing grade 12 in English classes. This helps students prepare for their college essay and give valuable feedback from their counselors and teachers. The curriculum that we administered with students was informed by our conversation with admission directors from a variety of universities. As a result, we have a significant increase in essay quality.
Senior meetings begin with students during their junior year with a junior jumpstart lesson where they meet with us and we provide them guidance and direction to prepare for their senior college applications, their essays, and their meetings in the fall, which we just finished. We provide all juniors with a college organizational tool. We help students identify target, reach, and safety schools using the data in Naviance. This helps students identify appropriate and right fit schools based off their major interest and individual factors that students are looking for in a college. We gave our rising seniors a summer assignment of completing their organizational tool, a resume, and a brag sheet, which must be completed before their senior meeting. We actively review their organizational tool, graduation status, community service hours, provide college essay feedback, and review their Naviance account.
To better evaluate students' needs, we provide a pre and post survey for every senior. After our senior meetings, we review items discussed and provide a summary for students and parents of where they are at in the college going process. This data demonstrates advanced preparation of the college application process. In 2021-2022, only 25% of students accurately identified reach, target, and safety schools. In 22-23, over 70 have done so. This demonstrates that our students are better informed about their college choices. It's me again. The Scheduling Curriculum Committee is responsible for guiding our scheduling process for accurate course requests for the grades level 8 through 12. Each spring semester, students create their schedule for the following year. These meetings ensure progression towards their post-secondary plans, including their individual four-year plans. Additionally, every year we amend our scheduling information documents provided to students and families with updated course offerings, recommendations for college and career readiness, and thorough instructions on how to put their future courses in PowerSchool. This is critical that students input their courses accurately on PowerSchool since this drives the creation of the master schedule. This committee also oversees the implementation of our SMHS dual enrollment program, which we will explore in future slides.
In each scheduling meeting with students, we document and provide guidance on a multitude of checkpoints, including their four-year, post-secondary, and summer plans. Student course registration begins in January and ends in May. Throughout, we identify trends that impact the development of the master schedule. We also identify students that need to remediate classes during the summer or the following year to meet their post-secondary goals. This process is data and student-driven in order to build programming around student achievement, needs, and goals. We update our course catalog in collaboration with departments and administration so that each year families are well-informed and prepared for scheduling meetings.
We begin with the 11th grade scheduling and conclude with our incoming freshmen at HMS. These scheduling meetings with our students are heavily involved, allowing one-on-one time for students to talk about their course choice, reviewing four-year plans. The process is a unique opportunity for us to spend about 30 minutes during each of our scheduling meetings for all current students and future Titans. Last year, we met with about 810 students for 30 minutes each, which provided 31,500 direct service minutes. Once we have completed all the scheduling meetings, we could begin to comb through the course requests, build sections based on student requests. Not only do we meet with each student individually for specific scheduling items, we also allow students to submit a Google form for any other meetings they would like to have with us. Last year, we had 436 student requests to request for meetings this year, and currently we're at 139. At these meetings, we typically discuss academics, personal items, and college questions. We aim to give our students every opportunity to reach out to their counselor when in need.
Our collaboration with Pasadena City College administration and department deans has enabled us to create and foster positive relationships in order to develop the San Marino High School dual enrollment program, which offers students the opportunity to take college courses on our campus. Our courses are chosen by surveying student interest and then helping students through the matriculation process to become a PCC college student. In the 3 semesters since we began the program, our enrollment has more than doubled. And next spring, we plan to offer 5 courses. Our #1 priority in this program is to support students and offer students the chance to explore and prepare for college.
Together, Ms. Smith and I work to coordinate special events and projects. Some of the events include the Huntington Middle School Move Up Day, Promethean Breakfast, and Senior Awards. During HMS Move Up Day, we coordinate and work closely with SMHS and HMS ASB to organize student groups for the rally and help the Scheduling and Curriculum Committee organize and deliver counseling lessons and course selection for the 8th grade class. We felt it was important for our rising 9th graders to get to know their counselors, get a better understanding of the courses offered, and begin to feel connected to the SMHS community, both in and outside of the classroom. We arranged performances by cheer, dance, as well as members of clubs and sports, speaking about their experiences in high school extracurricular activities.
Events that are ongoing throughout the year include test coordination with Mr. KC for the PSAT and AP tests, as well as running our campus tours with the ASB hospitality members. One of them is Kelly. So far, we have completed 3 campus tours and have tours arranged for the remainder of the year. We also monitor and post on our social media account. Something new this year that we brought back from the past is the new student luncheon. In an effort to ensure that our new students feel connected, we partnered with both ASB and Link Crew to organize a lunch event where we played games and get to know you activities while also enjoying delicious food and mingling.
Okay, as a team, we have identified some areas of growth under each committee. Our college and career team continues to improve how we guide students through the college essay writing process, making sure students are expressing their genuine voice. We make sure students are using Naviance so that they are better informed about college. Sometimes we see that students' lists are not as comprehensive as we'd like to see, but of course, there are some time constraints that we are not always able to dive deeper into the exploration at the senior meetings. To tackle this, we are shifting these conversations to start earlier in junior year and to help students plan earlier.
For wellness and support, we will continue to build community with our students and not just be seen as the academic counselor. We will continue this through our counselor in the quad events and in our everyday actions to be more visible. We are improving our intervention process to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the student, but also meeting them where they're at, formulating more goal setting so that students have reasonable steps to show success. Lastly, we are also working to incorporate more staff collaboration when it comes to supporting students. This year, we have been observing students more in the classroom to see things from the teacher's perspective.
For scheduling and curriculum, we noticed that in our data that students are not confident in using Naviance, which is a curriculum we use as a department when we're working to help them become more knowledgeable in that realm. We are also encouraging students and families to make informed decisions about selecting the correct amount of balance in their schedules.
Lastly, for special projects, we are still working on systemizing our campus tours with ASB, providing helpful insight, a well-rounded experience, and goodie bags for our prospective families. We are also working to increase our engagement on social media by advertising events and having more student followers, as well as community members, so please follow us. Finally, we plan to incorporate more senior student voices in both senior awards and Promethean breakfast.
Lastly, we will give a survey to all of our graduating seniors to evaluate their counseling experience. We will use this survey to help us reflect and improve our department. Thank you for your time tonight, and we would love to answer your questions.
First of all, thank you for counselor, for the last 12 months. I think we get a very good feedback. And I have a question to asking for this year, the result. Have you analyzed what is the factor, the attribute to this college admission? Do you have any idea?
So with regard to the college admissions from the 21-22 school year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as we mentioned on our areas of growth and also through what we've done with our college and career committee, I think our students, so what was the question again? I'm sorry.
What can you attribute?
Yeah,
Attribute? So one of the reasons are, one, our kids are amazing. And two, I think we've done a lot of communication to get them prepared. This year, we're really excited about what our kids are going to do. Mainly because we've seen, as you mentioned, that one slide on the data in terms of their preparation, in terms of their college essays, is astounding. That one statistic, 25% of our students last year hadn't really started their essays by the time they had their senior meeting. Now we're at 70%. And even today in our open labs, the level of discussion in the open lab today with the students coming in is wild. We had a student come up to Mr. Kurtenbach and I asked us, what course would you, they're writing their essay, what course would you add at SMHS? Would you design if you could? He's like, I'm just thinking abstractly about my essay. And just kind of walking around the room, just kind of reflecting. And it was just such a cool vibe, and students were going and getting direct feedback on everything from specific details to their applications to, polishing up their essays for specific universities. That's something we didn't see last year. So Mr. Chang, I don't know what the outcome will be, but what we do know is that we're implementing the best practices, and I can't guarantee that our students are going to get into, every top 50 school, but I guarantee you that they're going to get into the school that's the best fit for them. And the students are doing really, really great work in conjunction with their counselors.
I think real quick, one of the things that, and it's an intangible, it's really difficult to like put your finger on. Our kids came back from the pandemic and they were just like, we want whatever you're going to give us. And this team dove headlong into, these are the things we know get you in. And the biggest one was their essay. And that's why we put a premium on getting our juniors a little bit more prepared. So when we talked to the seniors last year, we said, what are the things you wish you knew or you wish you had done before you got here? And a lot of it was these preparation activities that they hadn't done. And part of that was really because we were in a big transition phase. We had lost a lot of our team, but also it was because they weren't on campus and they didn't have the same connection that they had in years in the past. So when we were giving them the feedback of, this is something you should be riding towards, this is something you should shift. I often think about the magician who's also a scientist who got into MIT. He shifted his entire essay. And that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got, is that the students were writing more towards who they were beyond San Marino. And that is what we're getting the big feedback from. And even I, grab these guys after school and have them help my friends' kids. And it's making a huge difference in their life too. So we know that that's one of the pieces.
Thank you.
So I don't have any questions. I mean, literally, that's truly a miracle, I have to tell you. That very well could be the best presentation I've seen in all my years on the school board. I mean, I am not kidding. It was phenomenal. You told us what you did. You told us how you use both qualitative and quantitative data to determine what you're going to do. You measure performance against those goals, those objectives. And I think what most people don't do is to say, but we can get better. And you told us how we're going to get better. My kids had a great counseling experience, but it would have been even better doing this. So thank you. It's really great, really great.
President Caldwell, could you say it again?
And it's recorded, so you can use it
play it
whenever
back
you
tomorrow.
want.
I just want to say thank you because your history here really that means a lot. So
I mean, I mean it to mean a lot. It's extraordinary. It really is. I think, you know, pulling it back for the junior year. I mean, I remember like hawking over my kids doing much of what you're doing. And I had been through it before and I sat in here and I heard stuff, but it's a lot of work. It is for you all. It's huge for you, but it's huge for them. But what you just described, this needs to be on your website too, if you didn't already put it there, because it's really good. But I mean, you know, having you all deliver it, because that was equally as good. So that's really, really great. Thank you.
Her kid is the same class of mine.
Yeah.
did you think it was as good, Justin? I recorded too.
I do have a few questions. Well, I'll start with the questions. So I'm curious about a couple different groups, specifically your special education and your English language learners. Can you speak a little bit to how you're helping them with those areas? And you talked a little bit about it, but more, and I'm thinking more in terms of the goal of, you know, as much as we love our kids, we do want them to graduate, right? Or we want them to get the degree, we want them to get on to the adult program, whichever track that they're on. So if you can speak a little bit to the work you guys are doing on that front.
Yeah, so that's a little bit more actually in my area than say the counselors. As counselors will help them acclimate and get their course scheduling together. But a lot of the ELD services that they receive is kind of done at the district level in terms of making sure that the goal of our ELD program is to make sure our students are fluent. That's the bedrock of having access to higher education. You can't comprehend the material if you're not fluent. So what we've done, and another shout out to our counselors, is we've basically this year revamped our entire ELD program. It's one of those little things we didn't mention here, but is a little thing just mentioning that is we've gotten the appropriate course scheduling resources for our students and dived into the data to really figure out where they need to be. There used to be a mentality in San Marino where, you know, we don't want to be in ELD. We want to go jump into English. We want to get electives. We can go to college. And we're finding a lot of success with a lot of our students. We're saying you're at an ELD level 1, 2, 3. Yeah, basically, you're not fluent in English yet. You need extra help. You need extra time learning English. And they've gone through students one by one, and we've given them that ELD time, and they're thriving. We can prove it through the programs that they're in right now. But we're also saying this is the plan for you to get your 4 years of English and to go to college. And they're good enough to not only figure that out one by one for each of these students who are coming in who don't know our system necessarily and are confused, and can explain that to them. And when they can't explain that to them, we figure it out. So that doesn't stop us from doing that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's been an area that we knew we had to improve this year, and we're making steps to do that. I meet every 2 weeks with Danielle Blatchley, who's in charge of the ELD here at the district office as well. And a lot of those conversations, is feedback. I give feedback to her based off of what the counselors are telling me with their experiences with the students.
And then how about your special education on that side?
Special education is ongoing. So it's wrapped into our multi-tier systems of support. we're everything from the courses that we offer to the interventions. We're working with the case managers, and we're working on the plans in conjunction with the case managers. So that's very much a part of our MTSS.
Our biggest goal when we're looking at special education, obviously it's an individualized program for each kid, but it's to sit down early on. If a student enters into San Marino High School with an IEP, it's to sit down with those parents and that student and try to identify the goal. Many of our students don't want to go to a 4-year right away. It's a big jump for them, but they want to be prepared to, in the case that, you know, times change, right? So they want to know, will this course count for UC? Will it not count for UC? And whenever we're about to make a shift, say a course is a little too difficult, so a parent requests to go to a lower level course, that's when we make sure that we're there saying, okay, so if you're going to make this shift, here's what that means down the line. Or go ahead and make that shift. There's a way for you to add a course later that's going to allow you to continue to be eligible for this course or for these colleges or these universities. So it's an ongoing conversation that we have. It's based on student needs and the flexibility that we gain because they're so knowledgeable of what these courses are. And that's a big reason why we revamped that course catalog, is so parents can have that information in front of them. So if they say, you know, I don't want to take chemistry anymore, I want to go to an earth science, they know what that means for them and they understand what that means long-term. And then they also know that, okay, maybe that's something I can add on as a junior or senior instead of my sophomore year. So we create many pathways and it's based on whatever that student is ready and prepared for at that moment, but also looking down the line so that they're not cutting themselves off. And a lot of that has to do with, well, it all has to do with the work that they do. In the past, counselors would be running the IEPs. So they had a little less time to kind of get into the meat of what that kid needed, because when you run an IEP, you got to take notes and you got to organize everybody. So the way we do it is he and I run them. They're reviewing transcripts. They're listening to what parents want so that when it comes time, they can go, okay, wait a second. If you want to shift that, that's okay. But your 4-year plan was going this direction. That's going to take you this direction. So it helps them to make a better informed decision.
And I'd like to add one thing to that is the one-to-one scheduling meetings and those counseling meetings significantly aids our special education students because it just increases the level of support and interaction that they receive, and they can get more input and feedback on their goals.
And those typically include the case manager giving a lot of input and then always include the parent. Because many of those students have a more challenging time planning out into the future. And so we bring the parents in on all of those meetings.
Great, thank you. I have 2 more questions, but I don't want to hog it if everyone else. I'm wondering, coming back from COVID, there was a lot of concern about disciplinary issues on campus. How is that going and what are some of the strategies you've been using to address that? And you talked about MTSS and DBS, but I guess.
So typically when it comes to discipline, we try not to involve them except for support after we do the discipline. If it's an interpersonal issue, say if Jeannie and Linda are having an issue, we'll deal with the discipline and then they'll go for support. They might do a mediation together. They may just talk about ongoing issues so that they can help piece that out. That's that tier 1 social emotional support. And then if we recognize it, that might go to tier 2, or they might raise it to tier 2. So the discipline we try to keep away because they're about building relationships. We don't want them disciplining students. They're in the support after the fact.
Are you seeing a large number of those issues arising though?
I would say we're seeing a little bit more this year. Last year, no, not at all. And I really couldn't put my finger on why. There's always a special subset of students every once in a while that you get. I was one of those students. So it's, and it waxes and wanes depending on what's going on. But no, I wouldn't say that there's a significant uptick. I'm actually really impressed at the fact that our students have a pretty good track record of recognizing when something's about to occur with them and then coming and getting help from somebody right away.
My last question, then I have a comment. So you spoke about getting information from admissions directors about what they were looking for in essays. Were you also able to get information from them about what they're looking for in letters of recommendation, and then help our teachers craft more effective letters?
Yeah, so with our letter, so the biggest thing with the letter recommendation is the teacher needs to know the student. That's the biggest thing. In terms of, you know, what the teacher writes, you know, we always tell, you know, that's up to the teacher. We give them kind of, you know, we suggest that they get some information from the student if they don't know. But if you have to do that, you probably want to ask someone else who knows you better. And that's what we advise students on.
We kind of give two different style of workshops about letters of recommendation. We hold one in junior year spring for students who are ready to ask those teachers. So the teachers are kind of saying, you should ask me because I know you personally, not just because you had an A in my classroom. That's not significant, right? Okay, yeah, you have an A in the classroom, but what can I talk about, like your work ethic? So there's that side of the letter recommendation. But from admissions, they really are valuing the relationship with the student. You know, it's not just about the work ethic. It's not about them showing up every single day and getting the A. It's about the work you put in and the resiliency. You know, just because you have a B in the class, I tell a lot of my students, they're like, but I have a better relationship with this teacher. And I'm like, then you ask that teacher, whether it's a C or a B, because they know your growth, they know you over time, they know your resiliency. That's what you want to highlight when it comes to college admissions, because that's what they're going to see. They're going to say, oh, wow, this student has made so much growth over the, you know, from fall to May, right? Or to graduation or whatever, and through each year. So that is definitely something that whenever we have panels of admission reps and stuff they definitely talk about those. So we do have kind of the teacher side of the letter recommendation, what they prefer. And then we also have a panel for the students to hear, who should I be asking? Because we do get that a lot, you know, which one should it be? Should it just be a core teacher? And not necessarily. Yes, you should have a core because it's important, but also ask your VAPA teacher, your art teacher. If you have a better relationship with that teacher, that should be the person. So it takes a while, right? You know, we communicate these items to the students. Sometimes they just need to hear it from the admissions rep as opposed to us sometimes, but we're saying the same things. You know, we really listen to these admission reps, you know, through these conferences, we get to talk directly to these admission reps, and we were directly at their desk at the CSU conference saying, what can I tell my students? So, and it's been so nice having some of our workshops. We have the admission reps come in, and we've got a lot of great feedback from majority of our parents saying, thank you so much. I know this is what the counselor said. We just needed to hear it here too. So it's okay, but you know, that's just where we kind of give that way.
So on that note, my sons went through the high school a couple of years ago. They graduated during the pandemic, but they went through all of this before with a completely different team of administrators and counselors. And those administrators and counselors were fantastic in helping them. But I also have a 10th grader now, and I'm looking at what she's going to be getting from you. And I have to say thank you, because I think what President Caldwell was alluding to was, she thought the presentation great. And I said, well, and I'm thinking the presentation was great because you're just having this super comprehensive program. It's not, and I think what's beautiful about it is that it really is targeting every single student where they're at on a one-on-one basis from before they even get to the high school, and then moving them through so you know them, and then telling them what they need to know clearly. So there's no hidden curriculum. I think that's the most dangerous thing that our students struggle with when they come from hearing it from so many places. They don't know what they're supposed to do, or they take bad advice from somebody their parents may have hired for them. That hidden curriculum is the key for our students' success. And so to be able to unwrap those secrets for our kids is just phenomenal. And then to be able to do it in this really supportive environment where they have the whole range from a social emotional, so they can feel safe, and then they can do that challenge work and move to that higher work. So thank you.
I actually have a question and some of a concern on your college and career aspect. I see a heavy focus on like the college and preparing students for essays, but what about the career aspect? Because I heard concerns from students. I'm sure Mr. Kurtbach have heard before because it was presented at the meeting. Students are very like interested in having something where they can explore careers other than a survey we do on Naviance on 9th grade. I know in the long run, the board is looking to add internships into the curriculums that we have, but is there anything that you plan on doing, like say just for next year's, for the upcoming seniors, so they can have like an idea about their career path before they choose their major?
Yeah, we're actually working on internship opportunities this year, potentially in the second semester. I've talked to Ms. Rushing about that. The biggest challenge is finding time for students. The second biggest challenge is making sure that the people that they're working with are appropriate and cleared through the district. The other piece is we are looking to bring back a career day of sorts. We're trying to figure out exactly how to design that. That both came out of their minds and then was aligned with our new Principals Advisory Committee. So yeah, we're looking at ways to explore careers other than just Naviance. As I said, we have those two challenges, but the next piece is that medical arts pathway. We're going to try to make other connections there as well, and then hopefully grow that out to different pathways, business, which we already have, legal, whatever students are interested in. As I said, though, the biggest challenge is if I want to send somebody to work with, I don't know, any business on our fine street here, I have to make sure that person is cleared appropriately, and that goes fingerprinting and all of the other pieces that go along with it. So those are challenges that Mr. Casey and I are going to have to attack with Dr. Richter as well. Good question, Kelly. You always give me those.
I think before I mentioned, if our student they go out to take an internship, first of all, we need to teach them. They need to take a serious. So the internship is like the professional, the growth. Yeah. So they need to be very serious, like treat this like the work. Yeah. Because I interviewed a lot of the young students in the healthcare. If they are not take serious, I usually I'm just throw the application. Yeah.
I would say the one thing, and I know it was mentioned many times in there, but the one thing this team does really well is nothing gets implemented without teaching first.
Yeah.
This is a comprehensive counseling team that teaches. They are in classrooms. They go into homerooms, they take over fourth period. They are teaching not just social emotional lessons. They have open labs, which become better attended by our seniors as our seniors go in and go, oh my gosh, like I really now know what I'm supposed to be doing. So before we would ever implement an internship program, we would have times where students would have to come in and get trained on this is how you go into a business. This is how you interact with somebody at a business, whatever that is. These are the expectations because we want them to be best prepared because they're not just representing themselves, they're representing our entire community and our school as well.
I just have a quick question about the internships you were talking about. What grade levels do you plan on opening it up to?
That's primarily going to be based on the preparation that the student has gone through. I'm a maybe late junior year, but more than likely it's going to be seniors. And then that's also going to be based on kind of like our dual enrollment. We might want to do a lot of stuff, but other people might not be ready to. So like our dual enrollment, we might have 100 students who want to take psychology, but then PCC can't find a professor, so we can't run the course. So it's got to be a mutual thing. But seniors more than likely, and high potential for second semester, because that's when most seniors have a little bit of time to finish their applications. It's a little bit more relaxed environment.
I just wanted to say thank you. That was an excellent presentation. It's a great program that you guys have laid out. And so as somebody that knows a lot of juniors in our high school and a good number of seniors, it's reassuring to know that they have a resource that you are outlining tonight. It clearly has a lot of time that's been put into it, a lot of thought and a lot of forethought and planning. And so thank you. Thank you very much for providing that to the students.
All right.
Can we let them go home?
I
They
think
got work to do.
they might need to regenerate for tomorrow. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Okay,
All right.
shall we move on to Carver's action plan?
Yes, absolutely. So Dr. Choi, if you would be kind enough to pull that up for us. And just to recap before we dive into this, the Board of Education met on August 1st to engage in strategic planning and come up with 4 broad-based goals. On August 2nd and August 3rd, I met with my leadership team and we then worked on a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for each of our school sites and departments. And then we created a action plan based on our individual wildly important goals, which you will see up there as WIGs. We have a time frame. Many of these goals are ongoing. And then we have activities or actions that each of the schools are going to engage in. And then this is a document that is a living, breathing document and will be updated throughout the year. And we do hold our principals and directors and each other accountable for achieving the goals. So let's go ahead and talk about Carver's. So you see on the screen, develop and implement fiscal health and sustainability. That is the board's goal. And Carver's wildly important goal is that they will increase enrollment through marketing. And remember, we need enrollment in order to generate revenue, which feeds into fiscal health and sustainability over time. And especially at the elementaries, wherein if we get more kids at the elementary, they will hopefully feed into the middle and high school as we move forward. So in terms of the activities, the administration will post 2 positive Facebook posts per week on the Carver Facebook page. I've seen evidence of that. And I also just want to mention that we do have Principal Caldwell here this evening. So if the board has any specific questions for Principal Caldwell, he would be delighted to answer them. The PTA will post 1 positive / showcase Facebook posts per week on the Carver PTA Facebook page, which I know is very active. And I was just talking with some of the PTA members who were talking about really making an effort to make sure that they are frequently posting on their social media accounts and platforms. And that's happening weekly. Build tour sign-in link to school calendar for the web page. That's an ongoing action. And monthly, we have conducting 1 tour per month, August through January. I assume you mean with parents and prospective families. And I had just a wonderful opportunity. I shared it with board member Vice President Chon to be at the Carver parent party and was talking with this parent. And she said, you know, we moved here recently and we did so after having spoken with the principal and the PTA president, who I was so impressed that they took my call, first of all. Secondly, they offered to take me on a tour of the campus. And I was really impressed with that because usually schools are too busy or they won't do it right away. And she said that when her husband came home from work that day, she said, honey, we're moving to San Marino. And he said, what are you talking about? Our house isn't even up for sale. And she said, I've already contacted a realtor, we're moving. So I don't think he had much choice, but she was very, excited about the opportunity to become part of the San Marino family. And she was impressed with the school. She was impressed with the school personnel and the community being so welcoming to her. And so I think having a website for Carver Elementary and all of our school sites, having social media updated, having, the names of people that can be contacted as references for our school is really valuable. And more people are looking to those resources to connect with the principal, connect with the PTA president. So that worked out really well. And she moved from Beverly Hills, by the way. So she preferred us over Beverly Hills.
So do I.
So
So the school will provide a tool is that they can see the information from the website, see the when is the next one coming.
well, we schedule them as needed, but what they can do is they know who to contact. Like they will see who the principal is. They learn about the school. They know what questions to ask because they've already visited our website. They have information on who the PTA president is. So they were able to contact, I think at the time it was Becky Watlington. They were able to connect with her, and she was just warm and welcoming and social and engaging, and just a great cheerleader for our schools. So I think that's all part of the package. So moving on, we have coordinate monthly staff meeting agendas with Valentine. And that also aids in our connectedness with the other school, in building a fiscal health and sustainability plan to make sure the right hand knows what the left hand's doing and there's parity between the two schools. And coordinate monthly professional development with Valentine. So again, that's the connectedness between the two schools, making sure that there's parity. And that helps with people, new families coming to the district who don't feel like they're getting a better or worse experience depending on which elementary school that they get assigned. Okay, let's scroll down, please. And then in creating a culture of service, Carver will create a culture of service through increased visibility, recognition, and communications. So that ties back into the board's goal. Respond to all parents' emails within 24 hours. That is an ongoing action step, and that is something that is very important to our community. Our community expects us to be very responsive and service-oriented. Respond to staff inquiries with 24 hours. Within 24 hours, and that's ongoing. And again, our service is not just to our external stakeholders, but our internal stakeholders as well. Publish a weekly newsletter inclusive of weekly highlights and activities. That's happening weekly. Attend all PTA board meetings and share out weekly activities and highlights. That is a very service-oriented thing to do. Happening monthly, and scheduling and attending monthly grade level lead meetings and share out activities and highlights. Visit every single class weekly and provide informal feedback in written format. And that is creating a culture of service in terms of providing valuable feedback, which improves our performance, which improves service. Conduct weekly drawings of Carver Pioneer students and announce them over the PA system. That is being a very service-oriented school. Moving on. Demonstrate a culture of value and appreciation to SMUSD employees. So Carver's wildly important goal is Carver will create a culture that values and expresses appreciation to employees by honoring achievements, recognizing employees, investing in professional development, and in a safe work environment. Include celebrations and shout outs in every staff meeting. That's happening monthly. Highlight exciting events, learning activities in our classrooms on Facebook weekly, naming the teacher and grade level. Include staff highlights for certificated and classified in the weekly newsletter. And then continue the Seas Candy celebrations. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Seas Candy celebration is something that's been a long tradition at Carver, and good support of that. It's just been the neatest thing where families or staff that have something special that is happening in their life. They'll say, hey, this is Seas Candy moments, and people will go to the staff lounge, and it's a way that recently this video, since we go to become a grandmother, provide Seas Candies to everybody.
That's nice.
Us giving or the individual giving.
Great, thank you. Schedule and ensure that the staff lounge duty is happening weekly. As an example, food and merriment for all staff. So, yeah. Not sure that's in keeping with our health and, oh, okay, good. Healthy snacks are good. Okay. So the next board goal is produce high quality global citizens. Carver will ensure students become global citizens by advancing quality programs, excelling in the 4 A's, creating opportunities for social awareness and competency, providing robust counseling services, and engaging students in real-world experiences and opportunities. And in the far right-hand column, you see scheduling PBIS and MTSS PD time monthly for the entire certificated staff and develop action items, timelines, and accountability measures based on each meeting's topic or focus. And PBIS and MTSS, PBIS is positive behavioral intervention strategies, and MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support. Moving on then to scroll down, please, Stephen. Develop and implement. Oh, no, I'm sorry, moving into Valentine. So that is it for Carver, actually. So do we have any questions for Carver?
I have one note.
Sure.
I don't know that younger families are on Facebook. So maybe start pushing ourselves a little bit beyond our comfort zone into Instagram.
We have Instagram too, right? Do the sites have Instagram as well?
Yeah, there's an Instagram account for the district. However, the district needs to get a social media tool that merges the posts so that it posts on all 3.
Yeah, so we're working on that, and we just hired a community liaison who is the former marketing director for Chinatown Service Center, and she is going to do a lot of our social media and marketing and public relations for the Chinese community. Through her role as our community liaison. So we're really excited about having her on board. And then we have been looking into how we can have, assistance or support on managing our social media. That is an area that we just haven't been able to really pay a lot of attention to. And that's a needs to improve as far as I'm concerned for me and for the district. We need to make sure that we are keeping up with that. And it's really difficult because we are a small school district and we have limited resources and staff. So oftentimes we find ourselves just putting out fires. And that's a very proactive thing to do. So we do want to pay attention to that because it really makes a difference. And you're right, the younger generation, very, very driven to TikTok and Instagram. They don't want to spend a lot of time reading. They don't want to spend a lot of time. They want their information, small digestible chunks.
I think that's just their social media. I think that's the social media of choice. Each sort of decade group has their sort of media of choice that they gravitate towards. And I've just noticed that that's more the younger ones.
So pretty soon Dr. Choi is going to be doing TikToks for the district. We'll see. What's next after TikTok? I don't know. What's coming up next? We'll see.
This is great.
Thank you.
One other note, some of the work with parents, especially new parents coming out of COVID and the younger parents too. I think seeing something around some of that global citizen, ensuring that students are coming ready to learn. I'm not seeing as much of that in the younger parents where they're just coming back from COVID and they're sort of getting back in the groove of everything. And I don't know if that's something we're partnering with our community groups like PFA or our PTA groups to really put some work in that area so that the parents are sort of knowing what that means at the younger grades.
Yeah. Are you talking about just preparing kids for school when they come in at the younger grades?
I think so. I mean, I think a lot of kids didn't come from school the last couple of years.
Right. And I think that has to do with the pandemic.
Right. And so I think understanding that might be where the parents are coming from, rather than having the same assumptions we always have about where these kids are coming from. They weren't in preschool. They were at home with their grandparents or caregivers because it was a safer environment. And so a lot of our basic assumptions about what kids are coming in with I think we just have to be careful not to assume those are there.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree. And earlier when you were asking about behaviors, at the high school, I think most of the behaviors that we saw happening that were out of the norm were at the elementary because these kiddos were coming in without having the experience of being in a classroom, of having to sit still for any length of time or having to pay attention. And so,
But I see that a lot of doing a parent education.
yeah. Well,
And parent support.
and that's something perhaps we can address through our community liaison and the person that we're going to hire to do registration and enrollment. And we can talk about, those kinds of things and really emphasize the need to be prepared. But we're also going to provide support because we have counselors at the elementary, counselors at the middle school, counselors at the high school. So I think that we have a lot of support to be able to deal with those things. And our teachers are accustomed now to addressing those issues where they weren't right out of the pandemic. So.
And even giving parents a chance to talk with each other. a lot
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
I know that was my biggest resource
Mhm.
when my kids were really little, was being able to ask the questions to each other. And finding that opportunity. And it's harder to come out of the
Mhm.
pandemic to do.
Right. Thank you.
Also, I like to mention to principal, for the two elementary school. So right now, those students, they are some is a third generation in this San Marino community. So, so usually, the parent, they take care of the kid, but they also depends on their grandpa, grandma. So grandpa, grandma also have a lot of the comment, yeah. So sometimes they may want to talk to you, yeah. Just like the one, the older, the publish the book. So the grandma, they send the information to me, say my daughter is going to have a open house to share the book.
We provide so many opportunities for families to come in and just to add, if I may, Dr. Lynn, I so appreciate the support of the board, and Dr. Lynn was part of building and sustaining systems at Carver. One of the neatest experiences I had, and I would add to our recruitments and retention, when the Alley Cats came and performed, there was a member of that group who was up there who approached me afterwards. He said, we live in a neighboring district, and this is the nicest, best school I've ever been to in my life. And a 4-year-old, is there any chance you have policy that will let them come here? Absolutely. You get to a tour, happy to take you in. The word of mouth is so powerful, and people's experiences, they come onto our campus, right? From the elementary all the way to the high school programs that we build, they're so robust and just open and welcoming for families to come. So I really thank everybody for the support. Thank you for all the hard work that you put in and building those systems and making them happen.
And I have to say that Principal Caldwell, coming from the outside, is just so happy to be here. And what did you say? One of your colleagues mentioned to you this afternoon, you said they saw pictures of Carver and they said to you.
It's not a public school, it's a country club.
Well, it's real nice, but it needs improvement still. We remember we have to sell the bond at some point. So it's like,
Yeah,
it's very nice, but yeah, we're really fortunate, I think, where our kids get to go to school. So booster sponsor plaque.
Yes, Principal Kurtenbach.
President Caldwell, members of the board, Dr. De La Torre, executive team, and student board member Trin. Recently, the Board of Education took action to approve the football boosters request to provide donors who contribute 2,500 or more a plaque that will be placed at San Marino High School pursuant to your guidelines. I am here tonight to propose that this recognition of donors be extended to all booster clubs that support the 4 A's, which are the academics, arts, athletics, and activities. And my proposal includes allowing the donor's name to appear on a 4 A's supporter plaque, in perpetuity. That's the end of my speech.
So we have a proposal. Is there any discussion? Where would this
Do we have an idea of where it might be located?
The foyer, ideally, right above when you enter the foyer, we have kind of that little overhang before you go into the offices to the left. And we would create one that would go up there.
So,
And that way we could kind of have it grow.
so conceivably, how many would that?
I have not gotten records from each booster organization, but based on, let's just say baseball and tab. Last year, a few parents raised $6,000 to redo the batting cages. So I think that was probably 5 parents. But we would have to go through each booster organization and look at their $2,500 mark.
So this is, we're going back historically?
No, you said
Perspective.
conceivably how many, so I'm looking at, well, if I
Oh.
looked at last year's, kind of, you know.
Well, actually, my,
That would be-
sorry, I should have been more clear. My question was more how many can fit?
Oh, that's a giant.
So they're not going to be individual plaques. They're going to be, it's like a,
Perpetual, oh.
yeah,
perpetual.
where you
Yeah,
put
yeah,
Put a tag.
Right.
that shows the name of the family and the date.
Of course, we'd have it big
And
enough that
up-
you could see, but.
Yes, right.
But it's an extremely large area that could probably accommodate, I would say, a good decade's worth of people up there at least.
That was my question, since
Mhm.
it's.
Yeah.
In perpetuity.
And yes, and if you go out into our lobby area, you see where we have the certificated employee of the year plaque. And it's just the names and the dates on the plaque. And so you can fit quite a few actually on one big.
I mean, ours would be a little bit larger than
Yeah.
those, just so that you can
Uh-huh.
see them by looking up.
Right.
But yeah,
So have we decided a location?
yeah, it'd be in the
Mhm.
foyer of San Marino High School.
I just asked 2 questions. So it would be one plaque that would encompass all
Go grab it.
4 A's, or would there be separate plaques for different booster?
Separate.
Yeah, they would be separate ones.
Oh,
So
there
we
would
would
be-
have an athletics, arts, academics and activities. So
Oh,
for
okay.
example, the robotics one would be on activities and that would have people for that. And then if you had, if I went through all the tab donors this year, we would have those people listed on the athletics one.
So like robotics, for example, there wouldn't be a robotics plaque, there robotics donors would be
Activities,
on the
and let's
activities.
say you gave 2,500, it would say Michael Kalaki or the Kalaki family hyphen robotics club or titanium robotics.
And okay, and is the football one that we discussed previously, is that going to be incorporated into the athletics?
Yeah, we can add their names to that. The plaques that they're putting up on the field or on the stadium would be different, but we definitely add those onto that. I'm imagining these to be about double size since they'd be up a little bit higher. But this is an example of what something like that might look like. Obviously larger, so you could read it.
Did you indicate what the amount would be?
2,500. That's what we did for
Same.
football boosters. So we were just asking to do the same for all the other groups.
Thank you.
Do you think, well, before, I did not think about this question, but right now I have a question. So is that this will compete with the school foundation?
I don't believe so. These are the booster organizations and they generally have a separate fundraising arm that happens every year. This would just be a recognition of what they're already doing. It might amplify a little bit of their giving to that particular group, but I don't imagine that it would compete. We regularly have quite a few parents who give about this much to whichever group that their kid is participating in. Sometimes multiple, they play a sport, they're in the band, and then they also are on titanium robotics.
And I'm sure you recall that when we had recognitions before and people were making donations, it was all incremental. And for the vast majority, it wasn't, in their mind, it was, they wanted to support a specific passion. I think to a person, they were all already donors to the foundation. So this was like, I don't want to call it found money, but, just allowing people to pursue passions. Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
So is this 2,500 one time or lifetime kind of thing?
I would say within that calendar year. And then once you've been recognized, we hope you give more next year, but we're not going to put up multiple ones.
Well, if they donated the following year, different kid, would they get another plaque? Good problem to have. You can, do, you know.
It's a good question. I think if you're recognized because you've given to that particular club, then I don't think it needs to be. I'm not planning on putting the year. It's a perpetual plaque. You've helped that organization grow and be strong in any year. You know, Palacky family, titanium robotics, speech and debate. That's it. I'm certain that families won't be like, well, if you're not going to put my name on it, I'm not going to give any more, because they are going to continue to support their students in the programs. This is just a nice way to recognize them for doing that in whatever year they've done it.
I was thinking back to a good comment that Ms. John had the last time we discussed this about the concern of forcing people to do something. I mean, obviously the goal is not to force any booster or anything to participate in this. Particularly if the boosters are the ones that are funding the plaque, correct? Because they're the ones that are going to be funding the plaques.
Correct.
Okay, so
if they want to, they will. They don't have to.
If that boosters program decides that they want to take part in this, then they can vote within themselves to do it, and then they're
correct, because they're going to let us know which people have given.
I got
They'll be responsible for managing and telling us, okay, here's the list of people who've given $2,500. We'd like them honored, and here's the little extra. Those little plates don't cost that much. And you know, this year we've gotten some donations from parents just for academics directly to the school. So that would be for me to go and ask, would you like your name recognized on the plaque? And if they say yes, then we can go ahead and use a small portion of their donation to put that up there. And I would have that discussion with them directly.
I would move to approve.
Great. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. Any other conversation, questions? No. Okay. Kelly, you want to go first?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that a yes? Yeah, sorry, I missed that. Mike?
I'd say yes, but I'd also like to thank Mr. Kurtenbach for making the recommendation. I think it's a great opportunity to recognize the good people in our community. So thank you.
I appreciate you all pushing me to do so. It's a good idea. No, it was a good idea.
Joseph?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. Shelley?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the comments about my team. They hit my heart. They work really hard.
They hit mine.
Good night.
Okay, so our next agenda item is the consideration of advisory committees and their formation. So I think where we left off, the discussion was really around, we have, minimally 4 A's. And in theory, the advisory committees could support the A's. And I think the question here is that something that we would like to revive and add for any that didn't previously have one? And if so, how might we like for those to, what would be our vision for how that would work, I suppose? So it's an open discussion at this point. And so I open the floor to your thoughts. Anyone have any?
I think it would be good to have an advisory committee for each of the 4 A's. And I think members for each of those advisory committees could potentially include like presidents of the various boosters of those organizations or whatever organizations apply. And then, not just them, but obviously other input as well from the district and other community members. But I think it would be good to as an opportunity to raise some ideas and better convey in more direct communication to the administrators and the board in each of those 4 areas.
Thank you. Anyone else have?
Well,
comments?
I think if before we already have the advisory committee, but some they are not really functioning or they are not get a result. So end up, right now, some look like a temporary staff. So right now we go back to revisit this issue, this matter. So I think the most important, if we want to continue to utilize advisory committee function, we really need to have the quality committee member. They really know this issue. I don't think not necessarily we have to ask the booster president to serve, because the booster president, they may just interest for this year because his son, his daughter is there. So he fully support. So once they graduate and then they say goodbye, we need to, one, they understand community, they understand the curriculum, they understand the background. Yeah, that's my suggestion. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? No?
I do. I just waiting to see if Shelley had anything to ask. So I guess my question goes back to the one I had before, which is what is the mission and charge of these groups? I'm still fuzzy on what it is exactly we're asking these committees to do. And who will they be working with? What is I mean, I get that they're coming to us with recommendations, but are these recommendations of ideas? Are these recommendations of full plans for implementation at that point that really needs to be in concert with our staff and with our teachers and with our other members of the community? Because ideas by themselves, if that's the goal of it, then it becomes sort of a two-part committee. If that's all they're bringing.
I mean, all I can tell you is how we used them in the past. And, I think that, depending on interest, need, goals, what needs to be developed, I mean, whatever that actually is, it could be different at different times. It could be different based on, which A and what the initiatives are. But, I'm just going to, athletics was our first one. And, what we wanted to do for athletics is we knew we needed vast improvement in our athletic programs. And so we initially identified, people who had a real passion for a robust athletic program, a winning athletic program. And we were able to identify it. So, first up, it's, the need. Then second up, it's, do you have the right people to help, define what the need is and what a plan might be. The athletic advisory committee studied it. They looked at universities, they looked at competitive high schools, they looked at a lot of different things, and they came back and they talked about what made, what the research said, what their data said, that made a successful athletic program at the high school level. And honestly, the answer was a commitment by the administration, the staff, the board for it. In the case of athletics generally, it all started with football. That ended up being a high priority. Football drove the success of the other programs. It defined how we as a board then decided what initiatives we wanted to take. Pursuing the field, pursuing, coaches that were extraordinarily capable. Developing elementary age students to be competitive athletes when they got to high school. That's where SMCAA came from. Ways to fund coaches that the district couldn't afford. These were all things that came out of that committee in collaboration with the principal, the staff, the administrative staff, and then to some extent the board. So, I think it really needs to be defined on where we see these things needing to go. But I was sort of thinking about it. Well, we were prepping here. And, I think what we did, I mean, the academics was actually very much the same. I know you served on it too, Jane, but I don't know how that, you just went to some. Is that what happened? Okay. So it lasted a long time, and I think it sort of changed a little bit over time, but I think it did much the same. We asked them to look at specific things. But generally, the goal is to harness the expertise, the passion, and the interest of parents and other community members around whatever that topic is. And I saw it, my personal belief is I saw it as an extension of how we as a district would deliver something. We just didn't have those extra people or extra efforts or extra money as far as that goes that we could, use to make it happen. So that's why I am super hot on the idea, as you well know. I think it's literally the way that you extend your reach.
Well, I mean, I think I understand it in principle, because I think what it really speaks to is this idea of when you have an organization, you need R&D, you need research and development. You need some sort of plan for how you are going to advance your organization. So I understand that in a broad sense. I'm just wondering, is that what we are tasking this group to do, is to come back with these ideas? And I mean, at that point, is that what these updates are at that point as a board, or do these groups work with our staff and our leadership and our superintendent and report to her, and then she sort of pushes them on to the next points? Because I'm just trying to imagine, I'm a more practical person. And so I'm trying to imagine how this works practically. And I get that that's a little bit of a Debbie Downer on the whole concept. I do. And so I'm not trying to lock in, this is the box it must exist in, but I also am very nervous about the idea of just throwing it out there and saying, go come back with it, because I think a whole host of possibilities can come back. And what are we really talking about in terms of who's driving things, and how realistic are some of those things, and how does that fit with the vision and mission and the capacity and sustainability of our district?
So my thinking, so we had limited ones when we did this before, and they were for, they were created for specific purposes and ended up evolving to support the A that we were talking about. But today, where I see it a little bit differently, we may have some net new initiatives we want to get in place, and we've talked about a number of them in these meetings. But I personally believe that at this point, they work for Linda, and that she, has got this big list of things that need to be accomplished, and she leverages these groups potentially with board member support. It may be her recommendation that we include a board member on one of these committees. That's very possible too. And they help deliver the district's goals in that particular A. Which could and probably should include some level of, fresh thinking on it too, because that's also helpful for us. But I think that's the charge. And, until we have, the possibility, I don't know what, I know Linda's used them. I know she can use them, and she's interested, indicated an interest in doing so. But I really think the charge should come from her to support whatever, fits in our goals and objectives. That's where I would see it evolving to, but it could be literally anything. And I think we're doing nothing more here than opening up the possibility for those A's to exist, because it's not just about the charge. It's also about, do we have the right leader? That makes the biggest difference of all. Like, who is the parent volunteer? If we can't staff that with a volunteer that's going to help drive the initiative, we need to just probably put it on hold until either, someone on our staff or one of us is able to get somebody interested. That's what our job is to help fill some of those with the people we know. Yours too, because they talked to Linda quite a bit as well. But I don't think you have a committee for the sake of having a committee. I think if you can identify the right people, you do. But if you can't, you need to maybe put it on hold until you can build that interest.
And one of the things that happened, I think, most recently, which is not recent at all, but with the Academics Advisory Committee, I think there was a level of frustration from the committee after they had gone back and they did all this research, And then they came back and it never really got off the ground or was implemented. And so we have to make sure that whatever we're asking people to do, we're serious about and committed to, because otherwise we're just wasting their time.
Right.
And in public education, there's so many layers of bureaucracy that we have to, get over to actually accomplish things that are innovative or outside of the box. That it's not always, it's not easy for us to do those things. And so we just want to make sure that whatever we're charging these committees to do is something that the board is very interested in and committed to. And is a need that the district has.
So are we effectively looking at approving the formation of, if you will, a think tank for the district?
In these respective areas, right? As
Or-
needed, right? Yeah.
That's how I would say
Right,
it.
as needed. So you don't necessarily have to, and just correct me if I'm wrong. You don't
Well, it's,
necessarily,
you know,
yeah, you don't
I'll be
necessarily.
gone.
Well, you're just down the street, sorry. You don't have to activate these committees if you don't have a need, but once a need comes up, you can activate the committee and they will go off and do their research and then come back and present it to the board.
So then I guess that begs the question, do you foresee a need for these committees in the immediate future?
In the immediate future, it's hard to tell. I think we absolutely would love to get, the right people to help us research things. When you talked about R&D, I mean, there is a need for research and development, but my mind went back to making sure, that it's something that we're likely to do something with, because if it isn't, you don't want to, especially people in this community who are professionals and whose time is very valuable. We don't want to waste people's time, but if there is a need that comes up, it would be a nice thing to have. And it has helped us in the past. And so I don't think you're saying form these committees and start meeting with them today about what we can do differently. I think that if there's a need, we can activate the committee and move forward and have them work on research.
And at that point, the board is responsible for the selection, or you would be responsible?
I would propose that it be somewhat collaborative.
Because I guess my confusion stems from the fact that I think I'm thinking of the committees as they existed, as I've known it, in the form I've known it. And I think maybe that's different than the form you knew, or maybe even different from the form we're proposing, because it sounds more like a task force for the superintendent and less of a committee for the board to accept recommendations for.
I think it could be both, right? I mean, so like, let's just take, and I don't want to keep harping on athletics, but it's the one I know the best, right? I mean, the reality is when you get to high school, it's really about excellence everywhere. It's about performing and it's about being, as best as you can be kind of thing. It's like that sort of situation. And I think it's difficult when you are in high school to not have enough kids on a team. Right? Not to have enough kids who can put a team together and be super competitive in the Rio Hondo League. Right? Those are things that are challenging. And, it hits a lot of touch points for us because, it is a reason sometimes parents choose to take their kids out because athletics are very important to those families. And they want their kids not to just be able to play, but to be able to play, competitively. There is you get a lot of benefit as a student, certainly at, in all levels, but, by the time you get to high school, there is a bit of a separation about, what the expectation is at the end. And I think everybody's really trying to go for, the top prize, or at least to, try to make that the case. And, I mean, if I were here next year, what I would want is for this committee to evaluate our performance, like what happened? Why did we win a lot? Why do we lose? Why do we, what is it? How do we get better every year? So certainly that's something the principal would be doing. It'd be something that, Linda and the administrative team would be doing, but, parents are asking those questions. They want their kids to be performing at those levels. And I think this just allows them to, engage. And perhaps when that, well, I don't know, you guys know Jim Gott, right? You know who Jim Gott is? He moved here like 50 years ago.
Former
I mean,
Dodger.
and, someone recognized he was a really good baseball player as soon as he moved in and, shepherded him into the Little League program. And then, he became a Dodger pitcher, right? I mean, that's literally what happened. And that's what needs to occur, is sort of recognizing this talent. Now, he might have been really obvious, but, there are a lot of other people that have the skill sets that just haven't had the opportunity. And the same exists. I mean, I was watching a YouTube the other day of our band and they were fabulous, but I was really surprised because there were, I don't know, less than 40 kids on the field. About 50 of them. Well, on the field then there weren't, so I don't know where they were. Our band used to be 150 kids. Yep. I mean, it was hugely different, right? So what changed? What's different? We should be looking at that because again, these are things that everybody focuses on academics, but I can tell you from working and living in the private sector, the people I hire, of course, they're smart, but they have all of these other connections and they've had histories that have allowed them to perform in multiple dimensions. And that's beyond academics. I mean, so we just have to, quite frankly, it's the reason I got on the board the first time. But, we have to heighten what we offer there. We have to continue to focus on it like we do academics. All right, so I'm off my soapbox.
I think there is a benefit to, I agree with much of what you're saying. I do. I think it's important to add these additional advisory committees. And really, we're only looking at 3 more. I mean, we already have an academics one. Right, so we're just talking about.
I don't know what we have now.
Well, in theory, it exists, is it right?
Well, it exists, but it's not active. Yeah.
Correct,
Right.
but so it could
Yeah.
be given a charge or
Mhm.
or projecting.
Except that we don't, all the people on it would, we'd have to ask for applications again because all the people on it have moved on in one way or another.
Right, and so really, with those 4 A's
Mhm.
and the facilities advisory committee, we're really, there's 5 committees total, right?
4.
With the facility.
Well, with
advisory.
adding the
Oh.
facilities advisory.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
4
Yes.
committees in the,
Mhm.
and the.
Hopefully that one's truly temporary.
Yes.
Right. But and the idea of including a board member even on each of them, I think would be great. You got 5 board members, you got 5 advisory committees. I think it would be good. I think that there's a lot of benefit to receiving with these advisory committees advising and having more of a direct link to the board. I think it helps with direct communication, that the community knows that voices from the community, research and time and effort and everything that's going into it is going straight to the board. Again, and what I'm speaking to has nothing to do with any individual person. It's just the idea that it gives a direct channel to the board, because then those ideas are there's no claim or no conceivable thought that it's filtered in any way, which I think is good. It helps with credibility. So I think it would be good to have these 3 additional advisory committees. I think it would be good to have a board member on each of them, all 5 of the ones that we're talking about total. My input would be that I think it would be good to have them report directly to the board.
So this is the action item. So what we want to have an action? What kind of-
Well, there's, I wanted to also talk with the board about the Facilities Advisory Committee. We have 15 applications. And if the board would entertain appointing 2 members to serve as the individuals who are going to make the recommendation on who becomes a member, because we can't have the full board looking at the applications and doing that separately. So is that something that you guys are prepared to do this evening? In addition to agreeing that we're going to.
Can we take it as a 1 and a 2?
Yeah.
So can I put that one just to the side for a
Yep.
second?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mike, were you making a motion?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm happy, yes.
We gotta form the motion.
I was. I-
You didn't start with, I'd like to make a motion, but it sounded like a motion.
Right, well, I guess.
Hmm.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. No. I just remembered that the number went up to 24.
Oh.
We have
okay.
24 applicants, which is a good problem to have.
What I think might be better, because is to make a motion to create an arts advisory committee, an athletics advisory committee, and an activities advisory committee. In addition to the athletics advisory committee that already exists.
You
And then
mean
we could.
academics, right?
Well,
So.
we already have academics and we already have facilities, so we would just create
Mhm.
an arts, athletics and activities
Okay.
advisory committees. And then perhaps on a separate motion, we could talk about who it reports to. Because first, we're just trying to figure out if it exists, if they exist. So that would
Well,
be my motion.
I mean, I
create
think,
those three.
Yes, I agree. All right, so I think what we are, so you have a motion and you're proposing that we either create and or reconstitute advisory committees for, arts, athletics, activities, and academics. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second for Mike's proposal, Mike's motion?
I would offer an amended motion. I still don't feel comfortable with that many committees. I think it's overwhelming. And if we're not going to activate all of them, I would rather see one advisory committee with 4 subcommittees. Because I feel that gives more flexibility to the person, to Linda, to be able to determine how to form each one as it proceeds. And allow for us to see what kind of interest we have from the community before we go into just saying there are 4 different committees. I'm very concerned that these committees will end up working in silos separate from one another, or that they end up pulling on the attention of our staff. Because when I look at the proposal that we originally discussed, it has all of the administrative leaders on each of these committees. And they're already doing a lot right now. And I'm very concerned that if we have 4 separate committees working in silos, working independently, working on different projects, that they will not have the opportunity to really be able to pay attention to each of those things.
Mike, do you want to accept that amendment?
So an advisory committee with 4 subcommittees. And it would be at the discretion of our superintendent.
If I can, before I accept or not accept that, I just would like to offer, I'll tell you, this may not be the case for everybody that would want to serve on any of these committees, but there are somebody that's going to be dedicated and enthusiastic enough to be a part of any one of these committees will have a lot of experience and a lot of passion on a specific one. For example, and whether I use Jeannie as an example or me as an example, right? I may be very, very interested in activities, the activities advisory committee, but not necessarily so much on one of the others. Ms. Caldwell's got a lot of experience and passion on the athletics. It's not that she doesn't care about the others, but she would be more passionate about those. If we have everybody on these from totally different areas, and then they're receiving one charge. If the charge is about athletics, you may not have a lot of people that have passion in the other areas wanting to even participate in the advisory committee process at all. It actually might decrease the number of applications because they feel as though they're not going to be heard. And so why am I working so hard on something that I don't know anything about or have passion about? It's not that these committees need to be 40 or 50 person groups. They can be very small. And they can still have very narrowed projects that they're working on. I would prefer my motion because I think that it allows people with specific interests to dedicate their time to those interests, which would then increase the willingness of people to be involved in the advisory committees.
Before we vote, I would like to recheck what is the purpose we put this on the agenda tonight. Is that we are doing for our board member or we are doing for the superintendent? And also I'd like to ask, is the superintendent like to have an advisory committee right now? So actually, I'm kind of confused. What's the purpose? Put this in the agenda, and I can tell you I'm the one of the two initiate the advisory committee. But the last several years, I don't see the benefit. In the beginning advisory committee, okay, they have a caretaker professor, accidental professor, okay, and later you know that became the the people they just thinking about the kid only, and another because I trace each one what happened after they leave, where they want this title and go became a education consultant and said I was the chair of advisory committee of the San Bernardino Unified School District. And some did get the promotion because of this title. So if we are redo, I don't think I'm one of the board members. I want to listen about those committee member because I know I'm serving the 21 years. I know what I should do to give 1/5. I contribute my personal, the input. If the rest of the board member want to take, that's fine. If not, it's okay. But I'm just want to speak out because I don't want to waste the time. If get some not can be recognized, the member to have a probably several hour meeting, to me, waste my time. So first of all, please, superintendent, tell me is that you need have this function to help you or not?
Well, at this moment, I don't have a need, but we could in the future.
Well, in the future, yes, I think I accept for this because I don't want once we approve and then look like tomorrow, someone will force us come out something immediately.
Come out with a committee.
I mean, come out of the committee and start to function. Yeah.
So can I ask a question? It's similar to what Mr. Chang's asking, but a little different with the stated goals of the board when it comes to service, particularly with regard to the 4 A's. Would it be helpful to you to have an advisory committee that would give information, be able to gather input, gather data, gather research to help you then move forward on achieving the board's stated goals of promoting all 4 A's, if you had an advisory committee for each one?
It's hard to say because I don't know who the members would be. I don't know what their expertise is. I don't know what their qualifications are. So that's a very difficult question to answer. If the board, my goals are driven by the Board of Education. So you have come up with 4 goals that I have to execute. And so you've seen the action plans for all but one school and the district office. Those goals, some of them fit in with the 4 A's, right? But some of them don't. And so we're marketing the 4 A's and we want to achieve excellence in the 4 A's. But the goals that I have don't, completely fit in with the 4As in every instance,
In every
instance. Some of them do.
They do
Yes,
in the board's goals as a whole,
right.
obviously, yeah.
Right. So if the board were to say to me, we want to increase participation in our athletics program by 10%, and we wanted to increase the members of band by 10%, before the end of next year. That would be a goal that I could work on, right? And that could be something that I could, talk to a committee about perhaps, or the biggest need for us right now, as I see it, is the Facilities Advisory Committee. Because we have so much work that we have to get done prior to putting any kind of measure on the ballot or a bond. And it starts with an FAC. It starts with them working on the process. And so that to me is my number one priority. I could use an athletics advisory committee, I suppose, but the challenge is the enrollment. If we can get our numbers up, I think we'll be more successful in terms of selection and all those other areas. I do believe that there is a need for these committees in the future. And so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that what President Caldwell was trying to do is just reestablish them to be activated when needed, when an issue comes up.
So it could be an available arrow in a quiver that when you are setting out to achieve long-term plans for long-term goals, you've already got it in place and you could activate it, you could move forward with it at that point and not have to worry about then trying to, create it at that time. I mean, create the ability to have it. You can just say, okay, that's one of the things we can use as a tool to achieve.
Yeah, let's activate, right.
You guys go research this long-term 5-year plan goal.
Right. And potentially, if we have a facilities advisory committee, and let's say that we wanted to build out our athletics program, and that included an Olympic-sized swimming pool, right? You might have an athletics advisory committee looking at that from a different perspective, so they could feed into the FAC in that way. Or if we wanted to have a state-of-the-art visual and performing arts center, you might have, a VAPA advisory committee to the board researching what that looks like and what the needs would be for San Marino from a different perspective.
So then in that respect, this opportunity for you would be for really looking at what are the educational and academic and activities and athletics, what are those other areas that really will fit into the facility needs and at that point, it starts looking at this more of an education master plan. It starts looking at where are we going? What are we looking like in these 4 areas? How might that fit with the facilities?
And I think that the intention that Mr. Chang had was to tap into the resources in our community. We have many people in our community that have expertise in a variety of different areas. And if we can leverage that expertise without having to pay for it, it's a gift. It's a gift. But I also see Mr. Chang's point in that, and I'll tell you, I talked with someone who is a member of the boosters for football. And I said, just off the cuff, I was just, saying, hey, what do you think about having an athletics advisory committee? What do you think about parent involvement? And he said, I think that parents would only be interested in representing their own children's needs and wants. And I said, oh, that's disappointing. But really, that was his perspective. He thinks that, but that's not going to be the case with what Mr. Chang was saying. You need somebody, right, who is going to have the expertise, but not just be there temporarily and for their own child, right? To be there for all children and for the program and for the school district, be a part of the community, not just an independent contractor or advocate for your own child. And so there's that, right? Because we want somebody who's looking at the big picture and not just having a singular agenda. There's a lot of different opinions on this topic, obviously.
Well, I mean, obviously, like anything, selecting the right people
Mhm.
is critical. And
Right,
If you don't have
absolutely.
the right people, you might as well not have it.
Right.
Having been on the Facilities Advisory Committee, we had to make giant assumptions last time around what was needed. Because we didn't have that, right?
Mhm.
There was no vision really about where athletics was going to go. Well, there was no vision around
Mhm.
what, what the fields needed to look like, what the gymnasiums needed to look like, giant conversations about big gym, little gym, like who gets what, big conversations about locker rooms. And by the way, that all of that existed in the first facilities advisory bond. I mean, like, on whatever in the 1990s kind of thing. The same is true with VAPA. And of looking at where VAPA is going, that was also a big question. And we didn't have any level of specificity about that vision to be able to build it into what we needed or what we were trying to support with a facilities bond. Robotics was actually the biggest discussion because at that point, robotics had just blown up. There were so many people involved in robotics and, I understand they've been moved, but at the time they were kind of operating in a maybe slightly oversized classroom. And it was, I went in there. It is cool. I don't know if it's the same one, but it was clearly too small to support the activities that were happening. And we had, high level information about this sort of thing, but we didn't have, like backup. We didn't have support for a recommendation about what that ought to look like. And, as you're kind of thinking about the facilities of the future, it means you have to have a plan for the future. You kind of have to know what that needs to look like in the next, 5, 10, 15 years. A bond typically lasts 30 years. So your vision needs to be 30 years. And I think that's a lot. And, quite frankly, a parent who makes that response, they shouldn't even be a candidate,
Right.
That is just, and if people are like that today, there's no point in having any advisory committee. Certainly the advisory committees of my past were parents who were interested honestly in the future. Because very few parents, and I mean the ones who actually funded the majority of the football field, very few of them had their kids even get the benefit. They were paying it for the kids that are here today. Those are the kinds of parents that need to be in those committees,
Right.
Whichever ones they are. If it's about your kid, you're not the right person. I'm just telling you right now, they should not be there. So yes, I do believe it's a quiver, but I will say, given the 2-year time frame you have to get your facilities plan in place, a lot needs to happen. And it's not just that committee. There's a lot of sub work that needs to happen, and whoever's on that committee needs to lay out what that is so you have it in time for the recommendation. All right.
I think that actually is a very good point, because if we are looking at a facilities issue, that may speed up the need, the timeline, the need for these advisory committees now, because we want to get input from all of these different areas to understand what the highest and best use of facilities would be, in addition to obviously what the facilities advisory committee is going to give. There, there's the building part of it, but there's the user part as well in that analysis. So that's I think another reason why we should have the floor.
Now I see a charge for me.
Right.
Now I can start to see it, because now it really becomes about, here we are talking about our facilities and where are we going with our facilities X number of years from now?
Right.
And how does that fit with the 4As? And each of the work of the committee really looks at it within those parameters of what are we doing with this program for the future? That becomes a charge. That becomes a clear charge for each of those committees. That becomes something that each of the people can be committed to and hopefully pull from a diverse group of people. The reality of it is you're going to get people in there who are in it for their kids.
And they need to have an exit plan. The chair needs an exit plan for those people.
Right. And that's fine, because sometimes those are your most passionate people. And sometimes
No, I do not agree with that.
well, I think they're most passionate in terms of voicing ideas versus other people who come in and they may not have experience in it. If you've never been experienced in a VAPA program, you won't even know what the starting point is. You won't even know what the VAPA program looks like. You won't know how the VAPA boosters operates. You won't know how the program operates. You won't even know the activities. You have to know that there's Arts Rocks, that there's this outreach, that there's a boosters group that you're responsive to. There's still the PTA, there's allocations. There's so many parts within our district that make each of those 4As work, that if you've never been part of it, it's really hard to come in and start making recommendations, because it might be, we already do that. We don't do that because there's the laws around it. So sometimes having some passion, it's directed, it's disciplined innovation. It's honing all of that information. So in that way, I see a charge for it.
Okay.
So if we're talking 4 committees for each of them under the charge of how does that fit with what the future of our schools looks like? Especially with an eye to our facilities and what those needs are going to be. Now we're talking education master plans, that's the advisory committees. That's where all of these 5 groups fit together then.
And that's, although I may not have articulated, that's why I tried to narrow my motion in multiple steps, because I think there's a big discussion about what the charge should be, right? And not necessarily having to happen tonight. It could happen at another meeting. It's just, my motion was just, okay, can we just create the ability to have these? Then another entirely separate discussion would be the charge. Another, discussion might be who's going to constitute it and so on. And when you pull it in, but that's why I worded that the way I did.
How do you feel, Joseph?
Well, I guess
That's why. No, actually, I know what's the purpose to put this one, but because sometimes once you come out a rule, so then I don't want the superintendent just but definitely I understand what the Ginny trying to say. The like aesthetic, that what's good, just those donors, they did not benefit to their own kids. Yeah, they have a vision. Otherwise, today we still don't have Titan.
Right.
So yeah.
And I just, I
I
think no. I was going to move that we extend the meeting by 30 minutes because we're about 4 minutes away, but
That's fun.
this is the last one. So if we're going to be done, we're going to be done. I just.
It's not, because we're not going to be finished by 10:30 because we have to deal with the FAC question.
I'd like to move to extend the meeting 30 minutes.
Um,
Unless we feel like there's going to need to be a longer time, but
No.
30 minutes is good.
Well, honestly, I don't know why it takes this long, but having
I agree. I just didn't want to run out of time.
but
I will second that.
okay, awesome. Any discussion about that? Okay. Kelly? Kelly, you want to vote for it and leave?
Yes.
Is that why you're laughing?
She's packing up.
She's the wife that's still at the table. She's packing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for her.
Good for her. All right.
Aye.
All right. Joseph?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now, Mike, you want to renew your motion just so we all know what we're talking about?
I'm just bringing a motion to create or reconstitute advisory committees for athletics, arts, academics, and activities, in addition to the facilities advisory committee. So there'd be 5 total.
Bye, Kelly.
All right, thank
Uh,
you.
All right.
Careful.
Does Mike's motion have a second?
I will second.
Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Now let's vote. Shelley, how about if we start to the left today?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Joseph?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Great, we have a quiver. Now,
Just need to stick an arrow on it.
Facilities Advisory Committee, we have 24 applications.
24 applications.
Okay. Does that include the people who've asked to be considered to be appointed?
No, and there are 3 of them that we know of, right?
Well, but
I know of one. So, yeah, 3.
because there are also, people that the board and or the staff may wish to propose for appointment. So it's 24 plus the 3,
Yeah.
plus if there
Right.
are others beyond that. Which,
Right now, are we talking about a subcommittee?
no,
Okay.
so what Linda had asked, and I asked her if we could just put it on hold till we finish the for a advisory committee discussion, is the Facilities Advisory Committee, and she's, I don't want to speak for you, but so just stop me if I'm, but she's looking to move that forward because we've now received some applications. We need to have a determination about how many. And of those, which ones, like how big should your committee be? And how do you select out which that, what it was? And I mean, she made a comment about appointing 2 members, which I presume. is how
Two
that
members of
last
the
time.
board as a subcommittee to look at the applications, to have a conversation, and then come back and make recommendations to the board on who's going to serve on the committee based on the application review and considering all the candidates.
So I'm hearing 2 things. So I'm hearing subcommittee, but before we even get to that,
I think
there's other questions you.
No, because I think honestly, you pick the 2. I mean, if we're comfortable choosing 2 members, they go off and they look at the apps, if somebody here has a recommendation to, appoint someone who may not be part of that application pool. I mean, I suppose the 2 members could consider them as well. And then just come back with a plan, not even necessarily the selection, right? But a plan.
Well, I'd
for
like
how
to
you
have
get
the
there.
selection.
By when?
Well, I think the board will make the ultimate selection, but the subcommittee will make the recommendation to the larger board in an open session meeting. So hopefully by the 15th.
Well, I think the challenge is that, they have to see who's applied.
Yeah.
To see who we
That's-
need to maybe consider appointing, not just these 2. I'm talking
Right.
about like the whole board should,
Mhm.
I mean, so maybe there needs to be a
Well,
list of who's applied.
Right, and so if the board would like to contact Jennifer Delatorre with names of people that you want to be considered in addition to those that have applied, and then we will share those names with the subcommittee that you're going to appoint tonight. And they will look at all the applications, they will consider the names of the people that you are putting forward, and then they will come back on November 15th with a recommendation to the board on who should serve on the subcommittee. And the board can weigh in on that and have discussion
Like
about that.
the final recommendation from this 2 board
Subcommittee.
member
Yep.
subcommittee to the full board by November 15th.
On November 15th, but yes, they'll do all the work leading up to their recommendation, which will happen on November 15th during open session at the meeting.
Do we want to have a conversation now or later about how many members are on that? I mean, because I don't know how many applied, right? So I don't know, or.
Well, she said
24.
No, I'm sorry,
Oh.
how many on the actual committee?
Well,
Right,
again,
are we sending
that's,
the subcommittee with a, look for this many, or are we sending the subcommittee with, look at what you have and then come back with it?
let me see what the document says here. I think it's,
I think that what I would say is, first, let's just appoint the subcommittee of the 2 board members, and then the next
Right.
motion would be, and we move that there's going to be X number of people that are selected, and then the subcommittee then knows what they're.
So you want to see us decide tonight the number?
Well,
of the-
we don't have
I'm
a board
asking,
member,
yeah.
we don't have a board meeting before November 15th, so
Right.
unless the subcommittee is just gonna rank 1 to 24. And then the board, blindly picks a number, and whoever's above and below that is in or out. I mean, that's how I think logistically it would have to work if we didn't pick the number tonight.
So
We're not gonna be having another meeting.
I mean, I think we definitely need to pick the 2 board members.
Right.
My challenge is that I think you have to have a chair. And the chair needs to be part of picking the board and picking who's on it, because the chair presumably is the person with the most passion and knowledge about it. And is likely going to be the person with the most input about the candidates.
it says 12 to 15 members.
And that seems right, to
Right.
be honest.
Yeah.
It was somewhat unwieldy last time.
Mhm.
And I think that that's what I would have probably preferred. Yeah.
So then so the number is 12 to 15. But
But
the
I-
subcommittee will come back with a recommendation of somewhere between 12 to 15.
Well, I think,
Well,
yeah, I mean, I think it honestly depends on, what skill sets exist in the,
Right,
in the
right.
process. I mean, do you have 20 of one skill set and, nobody with budget experience? I don't know, I don't even know who's applied, but I think that you need a broad range of that.
So how do we solve the issue of the chair not being part of this if we're going for a November?
Maybe in the application, someone will pop up. I think we need to have a, potential for a recommendation on the 15th, but if not, then December 11th. Because I think that there might be some discussion in between.
Okay.
And truthfully, nothing's really going to happen before January 1st anyway.
Jeannie, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I remember you saying that you were going to chair
Yeah.
facilities
I remember
advisory.
someone asking me that.
I remember you saying you would.
I don't
So-
know that I did, but we'll see.
We get a recording of the.
I know, right? Yes.
So anyways, I would like you to consider it. That would help us a lot, Jeannie, if you would, because then you could head and perhaps select another board member to work with you to cull through the applicants. I agree with what you said, that we need to have almost a rubric of the people that we select, because you can't have 15 of all of one, the people with set expertise in one area and not the other. And we don't know of the 24 who they are in the community, and what the charge is even right now as we speak, because last time we went out on this, I felt that the parameters were too broad, not specific enough. And now that we've just ushered in these committees, I do agree that you have to have committees look at our facilities and what the needs are, and having that vision. But also it can be kind of managing expectations, because when you have all these committees and buy-in, there's bound to be lots and lots of expectations. And that's why you mentioned yourself in the facilities committee last time. It was kind of unwieldy, rather large, and you really needed the right people in the right roles. And so just want to caution everyone on that.
Okay.
So is that our 5 board member can read the application or not?
Well, you're gonna have two, you should have two that are on the subcommittee that would read the applications.
But the board member, all board members would be able to receive applications of whoever the names are that are put forward.
Oh,
by the
yes.
subcommittee.
So they could all get a packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
You won't
those
get all
that you're,
24,
not
but
all
you'll
of
get
them, but
50.
those that you're recommending, yeah. That would come to the board meeting in open session on the 24th, and you could have those before you.
So they
For the-
can't
for the
see
purpose of
everyone's though, they can't see all of them.
Usually it's not done that way.
But is there any reason why they can't? Because I'm just thinking.
No, there isn't any reason they
Some-
can't, because it's a public position. It's
Process.
not it's a public process. It's not an employee-employer relationship. But at the same time, I would think that we should
give it to
really only
everyone,
be,
We make it broadly public. So if
yeah,
for whatever reason we don't select someone.
right. So
I
I
get
wouldn't,
what you're saying.
I would caution you against that. And I would say, get your 2 members that you trust to do this, to come back with recommendations. And the
Like you don't trust them.
No, I'm just saying that there has to be, trust and faith. It is. No good decisions are made after 9. And here we are.
So.
I assume everybody trusts everybody, but that you trust to make this decision who has skills, right? In this respective area. Not everybody does, right? I mean, some people can pick a plumber better than others.
All right, I will volunteer to be one of them.
Thank you.
And the idea behind the 2, just to be clear, is so we don't have any potential Brown Act.
Correct.
violations,
That's
right?
why
I mean,
you can't
because
have
we
a majority of the
everyone
board.
looking at everyone
Yeah.
giving opinions on it, right?
Mhm.
So just to be clear, that's what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
So is this like a volunteer or voluntold kind of a thing?
I think that was voluntold.
A little bit, yeah, yeah.
So,
And I'm just gonna say this for the record, and it's not, no offense to Ms. Caldwell, she did a tremendous job the last time in the last go round, and this is not an indicator of wanting her or not wanting her. But without knowing who else is in that pool of who could potentially serve as a chair, I would reserve automatically, voluntolding Ms. Caldwell to the position as chair, only because, I mean, we may end up with someone in there who literally has done this all from like start to finish somewhere else. And
Yeah,
so-
and we're not, I don't think we're doing that tonight, so we're not even voting on that tonight. So all we need is one more person.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah,
for the-
yeah,
for the
yeah.
record.
I'd be happy to throw my hat in the group.
so you should know that I am going to be on vacation again from November 5th through the 12th. So I can do this before I leave and,
We're meeting at 10:45 tonight.
well, I mean, maybe we can come up with a plan about how to do it while I'm gone. I mean, I don't, I mean,
Hey,
I'm
come along.
still,
Yeah, there you go.
She's
Where's the
going to
truck?
Hawaii. She's going,
where's the truck? It's on the beach in Hawaii.
she's going to Hawaii, so.
Bring little puka shell necklaces.
Okay, so do you want to?
Okay, so we need to, I guess, do we need to vote on that? So, thank you. All right, so for our two members to do the application review, we have two volunteers, Mike and myself. Does anyone want to second our volunteering?
Are you proposing the motion?
I guess I am.
Okay, I will second that.
Yeah. Any comments, questions, feedback? Okay, so Shelley,
I,
Jane,
Aye.
Joseph,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Mike,
Aye.
and I'm an I.
Okay, perfection. Thank you.
All right, I believe, any discussion items or was that it really, I guess?
No, I think that was it for me.
Done. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.